Somebody told me yesterday that they weren't able to comment on Zoom. I don't think it's working.
Was this Mr.
It was John Kelly.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I'm saying I don't think it was working.
Do we believe him?
Okay.
I don't know. I thought it was a true comment.
Okay. So I'd like to call to order a 6 p.m. adjourned regular meeting from the 21st. I would like to welcome everyone here, and so let's see, call the meeting to order. I think our first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Larry.
Okay. So how about Larry? Yay for us. Okay, thank you. Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, Larry. And I think I already noted that this is an adjourned regular meeting. It was from last night, and we will be working with both agendas. Okay, so may I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Barnett,
Here.
Councilmember Harrington,
Present.
Councilmember Felder,
Here.
Vice Mayor Ding,
Here.
Mayor Agrimonti.
Here.
Thank you.
Let's see, where are we going with this? We did roll call, public comment. We also have a public comment process here for this evening's meeting, so I'm very happy about that. Would anyone like to, do I go? I don't go to that yet, right?
Question.
No,
Why are we having public comment if it's a continued meeting?
We don't have Jeff here, but technically you don't have to have public comment again on non-agenda items. You would on the agenda items that you'd consider.
All right, well, thank you. So may I have the approval of the agenda?
We're all set there too. We could roll, if you'd like, into presentations, the PG&E presentation.
Oh, great, thank you. Thank you very much. I think it looks pretty good to me. I don't believe any for present, nothing for dedications. I think that opportunity was last night. So I'm turning it over to our interim city manager, Mr. Kiff.
So thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. This is a second presentation of this two-night meeting, and we thought this was timely. It was a request of PG&E. We're happy to have them with us electronically. I'm going to first have Melinda Rivera of PG&E check in and introduce the briefing. It's about PSPSs as they relate to community wildfire. So Melinda, you should be able to talk now if you're off mute, and all right, she may be getting back on. Mike, would you like to say hi? You're on camera.
Yeah, and I know, good evening, everybody. I'm Mike Wilson, the Public Safety Specialist assigned to Napa County here and also covering Sonoma County. And I know Melinda was logged in, so we'll give her a minute. She should be able to
She's back.
come on as a panelist. You ready, Melinda?
Is that me? Am I supposed to be doing it?
Melinda, you should be able to talk now. You're unmuted.
I'll be glad when this is over on this mute. And
I think it's going to continue for her, right?
I lost connection.
There you are. We can hear you if you just keep going.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening, City Council members, City staff. Thank you much. You, PG&E's Community Wildfire Safety Program with you. will I be sharing my screen or will someone else be showing the slides?
Ideally, you'd share your screen.
Okay, great. All right, give me just a second. And I will. Hopefully bring up here.
That looks good. Right. This is fine.
One more time. All right, can everyone see a blue PowerPoint?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're good to go. Thank you.
Great. Sorry about that. All right, well, good evening. Thank you so much for your time this evening. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Melinda Rivera. I work in local public affairs for PG&E for Sonoma County and for Lake County regions. I am joined this evening by my colleague, Mike Wilson. He is a senior public safety specialist for PG&E. This evening, we'll be talking a little bit about PG&E's updates to its community wildfire safety program. Brief moment on safety. We hope that everyone who is participating will exit route and is taking any necessary COVID-19 safety precautions. Okay. So wildfire PG&E's service area. California continues to experience an increase in wildfire risk and a longer wildfire season. On this slide, we are sharing one of the tools that we use when assessing wildfire risk in our community. This is the fire threat map of California. This map was developed by the California Public Utilities Commission in coordination with CAL FIRE and the U.S. Forest Service. It helps to plan for potential wildfires and it helps to focus prevention efforts. On this slide, you can see the high fire threat map for our area. Because this is I encourage folks who are interested, please hit the link at cpuc.ca.gov/fire threat maps in order to look up a specific address or to get a map to get better resolution on this image. Community Wildfire Safety Program. The focus areas of PG&E's Community Wildfire Safety Program include work to meet and exceed state vegetation safety standards through the Enhanced Vegetation Management Program, continuing to develop a more resilient system by hardening lines and installing sectionalizing devices that help to reduce the size of public safety power shutoff events. In addition to testing new tools and technologies to pinpoint how to best prevent and respond to the risk of wildfires. All of us rely on electricity every day, so PG&E wants to continue to work with our customers and our communities on solutions that minimize risks to the infrastructure during times of high fire threat. What's new in 2021? In 2021, PG&E is continuing system hardening work. And this year, the plan is to perform that system hardening work on an additional 180 electric circuit miles to address vegetation on 1,800 high-risk electric circuit miles in those areas wildfire risk, tracking weather conditions and monitoring for wildfires by installing an additional 300 weather stations and 135 high-definition cameras. We are also working to install over 275 additional distribution sectionalizing devices and transmission switches to limit the number of customers who are impacted by these events by separating the electric grid into smaller sections, continuing to improve weather modeling and refining forecasting through 5-day forecast data, Sending customer notifications in multiple languages, depending on the customer's choice, and providing a new address alert opportunity, which allows customers and non-customers to sign up to receive public safety power shutoff alerts about any address they choose. This year, PG&E is providing approximately 5,000 additional batteries to all interested low-income medical baseline customers who live in high fire threat areas, working to target additional ADA accessible sites for community resource centers, and expanding partnerships with community-based organizations to better support customers who have access and functional needs. Public safety, what is a public safety power shutoff? For the safety of customers and communities, public safety power shutoff continues to be a necessary tool in the wildfire safety toolkit and is used as a last resort. High winds can cause tree branches and debris to contact energized electric lines, and this can cause damage to the equipment and cause a wildfire. As a result, PG&E may need to turn off power during severe weather conditions to help prevent wildfires. Please note that these events are always weather driven and are only called when extreme weather and wildfire risk are present. Because electricity can travel several miles source to get to your home or business, you may be impacted by a public safety power shutoff if the electric infrastructure that serves you is impacted by high winds and severe weather, even if that weather is occurring several miles away from your location. Okay, so what actions can lead to a public safety power shutoff event? There are several factors that can contribute to a public safety power shutoff event. This includes low humidity levels, especially when they are 30% and below. A forecast of high winds, particularly sustained winds above 20 miles per hour and wind gusts above 30 to 40 miles per hour. A red flag warning is declared by the National Weather Service, the condition of dry material on the ground and low moisture content of vegetation, and on the ground observations in real time from crews who are working in our service territory. This year, the decision-making process has also evolved to take into account the presence of trees that are tall enough to strike power lines when determining if a public safety power shutoff event is necessary. Every wildfire season is different. The ongoing drought and the conditions will determine the number of times that PG&E will need to shut off power without compromising safety. How will customers be notified? PG&E customers can expect to receive notifications 2 days before shutting off power when we are in watch mode, 1 day before turning off power, and then just before de-energizing the circuits when we've moved into a warning mode, then once a day during the public safety power shutoff event, and then once power has been restored. PG&E will provide updates to customers through automated calls, texts, and emails. I would like to note that it is very important for our community members to make sure that PG&E has a current cell phone number if you'd like to receive a text, or a phone number if you'd like to receive a call, or an email if you would like to receive an email. So we encourage everyone to review the contact information that PG&E has on file by visiting pge.com/mywildfirealerts. This year, PG&E has also launched address alerts, which are available in multiple languages. So this is available for anyone who is not a PG&E account holder. They can receive public safety power shutoff notifications for any address. PG&E will also provide PSPS updates at pge.com to local news and radio outlets and through the social media channels that are seen on this slide. Customer preparedness and resources. This year, PG&E is doing more partnering with community-based organizations to provide support and resources throughout a public safety power shutoff event. PG&E is also working to provide food replacement packages by collaborating with local food banks and local Meals on Wheels programs. There is a partnership with the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers Disability Disaster Access and Resources Program to enable qualifying customers who use electric medical devices to access backup portable batteries through a grant or a lease to own or financial loan application. PG&E is also providing batteries through the Portable Battery Program for low-income medical baseline customers with critical medical needs. And this year, PG&E is providing generator rebates for customers who depend on a well water pump and who live in a high fire threat area. So these rebates are available for customers who purchased a qualified portable power generator between January 1st and December 31st of this year. PG&E is currently partnering with a number of community-based organizations in Sonoma County. You can see these over in the box on the right-hand side of this slide. If you have any suggestions, please let us know. If you have any suggestions on additional organizations that you feel PG&E should partner with. Portable Battery Program. PG&E is continuing to provide no-cost backup portable batteries in various sizes that are intended to charge medical devices for eligible income-qualified customers who live in high fire threat district and who are enrolled in the Medical Baseline Program. This program is conducted in coordination with a number of community-based organizations. Batteries are delivered to medical baseline customers at the beginning of PSPS season and retrieved in December for storage and maintenance. For more information, we encourage our community members to visit pgebatteryprogram.com. More information for community members. This includes the information about efforts.
Melinda, your internet is cutting in and out.
Oh, okay. All of these resources can be found at pge.com/wildfire safety. I apologize if I've been.
Maybe when she comes back, she could dial on with her phone and at least verbally present the rest of it if she wanted to. Madam Mayor, just so you know, Fred Allenbach was hoping to provide a comment in a general sense. So I don't know if you're interested in reopening public comment on non-agenda items. He sent us an email in between saying he wanted to do that.
I think that probably would be a good idea. What is he, chair of the CSCC? So we probably should provide him with some times
Melinda's back.
after Melinda.
Melinda, in case you fall off again, you may want to come back with your phone too. Sometimes that's a more reliable connection. Up to you. Why don't you give it a try
Yes.
though? How close are you towards the latter part of the presentation?
Oh, that was
Sorry, still a bad connection.
slide. Your time, we were at the last slide, and
Okay.
okay, I will try to phone.
All right, we'll do it. We'll have you call in and maybe take any questions from the council and the public. Okay, we'll wait for you to
Okay.
call in. Thanks.
All right.
Madam Mayor, while we're waiting, just as an FYI, for the public comment, I was just, LaTanya let me know that there's about a 20-second lag for individuals on the Zoom. So when we call for public comment, that they may not hear we may have already went past when they hear it.
I
So if
see.
we just keep that, I just found that out. I didn't realize that was on the Zoom as well. I know it was on YouTube. I didn't know it was on the Zoom as well, so.
Thank you. So we're still waiting for Melinda. I think that makes sense. Thank you.
Just while we're still waiting, in your proposed budget are more resources to improve the situation here technologically? Because we really have been bootstrapping it without that budget augmentation. So hopefully, our expectation was to come back in August with a seamless system. So we'll see how we do. Okay, so I think if she's calling in just a phone in, she's just gonna take questions now.
I don't see her trying to connect. I just see her muted.
So Melinda, if you can hear us, you can unmute and finish up your presentation verbally.
Yes, so again, apologies. I was on the last slide. Sorry. So basically we had reached the last slide of the presentation. I'm just trying to find the phone number now so that I dial into the Zoom.
669-900-9128 is one you can use.
I feel sorry for her.
You know what they do at court is you have to, in order to make a presentation, you have to confirm in advance that you have the technological capacity to meaningfully participate, and if you can't, then you can't do a video presentation. I think that's important.
So, if we're stumped here, what do you suggest? I think we should give her that time.
City Manager, I've been unable to dial in. Can I just attempt to answer questions?
Give it a try. Please give it a try, yes.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions of Melinda based on what you saw?
Any questions from the city council?
So when hi, this is Amy Harrington. When the PSPS started originally, the shut off for the city of Sonoma was the entire city of Sonoma, and then it became more nuanced the more that happened. Do you have any expectations about which parts of the grid would be shut off, and has there been any further development to kind of like understand which parts of the grid can be turned off so that it's the least amount necessary to accomplish the goal?
Councilmember Harrington, I hope you can hear me. That is an excellent question, and thank you for asking that. So last year, the PSPS events did impact some parts of the city of Sonoma. So as a result, this year, we did complete construction on a couple of additional sectionalizing devices. One sectionalizing device was completed that will assist with mitigating impacts on First Street West, where it stretches down into the north part of the plaza. It goes up as far north, kind of past the police station and up to where the water tank is. So that area hopefully will be mitigated from as many impacts this year. There's also been a sectionalizing device placed in the area of Donald Street to attempt to minimize the number of customers who are impacted in that area as well. So even though we have constructed these sectionalizing devices, I think my colleague, Mike Wilson, would also want me to mention that everything is weather dependent, right? So as long as we don't have a transmission level outage or some type of weather event that's kind of sitting right on top of a given neighborhood, we're hoping that these sectionalizing devices will help us to mitigate some of the impacts that have been had in the past. So I hope that helps to answer it.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? No? Hi, this is Madeline Agrimonti, and my question is to dovetail off of Councilmember Harrington. Is that something, the mapping that you have, is that something that's available for citizens to know how they reference what's going to be shut off, and how would they do that? If it's accessible?
Madam Mayor, thank you for that question. I know that we have certain maps available through the Public Safety Power Shutoff portal. I think I'm going to see if my colleague Mike Wilson can provide us with any more information about what might be available through the portal this year. I know that there may be some additional information about microgrids, but I'm not sure if we would have public-facing maps too. So not sure if Mike is on the Zoom or not.
I think
Go
he's
ahead,
just
Mike.
joined us.
I think you may still be on mute.
Well, we're both looking forward to driving to the next Sonoma City Council meeting and coming there in person, I think is the short answer here. But yeah, Madam Mayor, what I'd like to do, if it's all right, is since we're both having some technical issues, I'm happy to follow up with an email information and make sure that I'm providing you with a comprehensive response so that the appropriate information can be shared with members of the community. Because yeah, it's definitely helpful to know, right, if we do have some mitigation devices that have been placed that will assist people so that they can help, it can assist with planning, although we always encourage preparedness, of course.
Of course. Thank you so much. Am I considering this over? Is that what you're saying? Okay, so I'd like to take it out to public comment, please. Seeing no one,
Give them a little bit on the Zoom.
so seeing no one rising, well, how about Zoom? No one? All right, I have no one from public comment here in the council chambers or Zoom. Thank you. So, Melinda, are you still on?
Yes, I'm still here, Madam Mayor.
Well, we might have to do a sage burning before your next, before your next presentation here. I apologize. It has nothing to do with you or us. It's just, the moon and the stars don't line up right now. So I appreciate your even coming to the meeting. And I hope we'll be able to schedule this sometime in the future if that's something that's possible, Mr. Kiff.
I'm sure this issue will continue to be an interest to the council and the public of Sonoma, so.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Melinda.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, City Council, and wishing you a good evening. And I will definitely follow up with City Manager to get any information needed by City Council.
So I understand through the city clerk that there have been some people who've been passed up from a former public comment.
That is on item 4.2. We have
Okay.
one. I just checked with Latanya. There's no written comment from this
All
item.
right, thank you so much. So we, from the last evening, we're continuing from the June 21st, 2021 meeting, conduct a public hearing to adopt a resolution updating the City of Sonoma fee schedule based on the fiscal year 21-22. Recommendation, adopt the resolution. And now I'm turning it over to, and announce the item. I did that, turn it over to the interim city manager.
I apologize, I know this is confusing. We really still should go back to 4.1, which is your budget. And then if you approve the budget, then 4.2 makes more sense.
Okay.
I apologize there. So
So where is Fred?
is Fred on the Zoom still? Fred
He's on
Allenbach.
the Zoom show.
General public comment. Okay. Fred, if you're listening, the council is happy to take your public comments if you want to join back into the Zoom session. So he's not on right now, but if you wanted to go to 4.1,
Well, there's
you
that
could.
delay, is that right? Sorry. He left?
Yeah, he's not in the movie.
Okay. Thanks for coming, right. So I'm going back to 4.1, is that what you're suggesting? Okay. And I'm still turning it over to city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. This is a continued discussion of the proposed fiscal year 2020-2021 operating budget and the capital improvement budget. We did talk about a number of items last night. Hopefully we answered a number of questions. I'm going to go through just a few little notes based on some of your parting inquiries. You had asked, actually Councilmember Harrington had asked to potentially add a housing contractor position. We've assigned $30,000 to that. These are rough numbers, but we don't know that they're better ones. I talked with Director Ferguson and the team potentially doing some upgrades to the plaza landscaping. Our concept is to focus on something that might happen in spring, post-drought, hopefully post-drought, but they came up with a good plan that Director Ferguson can share with you in more detail, and I would assign $30,000 to that. We do need to assign at least $39,000, but we may not expend it all for a special election on November 2nd. Vice Mayor Ding talked about something that we think we do need to put something in the budget for that involves a resolution that has been passed in a previous year that suggests that some of the management positions need a compensation study to see that they're appropriately placed. The compensation study would be about $5,000, so that's a proposed addition to that. We did take
We did a compensation study about 2 years ago, I think.
It didn't include management, it was just line staff.
There's two other items, and then I'll kick this back to you. And maybe Sue and I Sue can provide more information on this. The question came up last night involving the Casa Grande lot discussion as to money for potentially gating the lot. And Sue, can you confirm kind of where that is or what that amount is?
Yeah, it's already included in the budget, the proposed budget is $30,000 we still have in there, so.
And then secondly, and similarly, a cemetery update, something that could update that. I think it's a 2005 study done by RJM that would look at updating the study that, again, was done a long time ago. And that amount is also in the budget.
Right, we have 30,000 in there for that.
Of course, I'm done.
That's great. So I know that there was a $49,000 bequest. I think I requested that money be set aside for the, and we were advised by our city attorney that could be set aside. I asked, was the money spent? They said no. Then I asked if the money was spent, and it said yes. So where did that $49,000 go? And because we assumed it would be for the cemetery study to go to
Yes,
that.
it is set aside, and my apologies, I thought we had spent it, that was my error, but it's still sitting there. It can only be used because it was a bequest to be used specifically for the cemetery, a cemetery upgrade, and I think we had originally thought it would be used for, you can, if you recall, but it has not been spent yet, but it can only be used for that, so
Well,
it's
and I
set
don't
aside.
think, I might not agree with that because I asked with Jeff Walter, and he said when that money was received, there was nothing in that information, just the check. But that's, somebody will have to check with him.
I read the original trust or will that left it to the city. It was broadly stated that it could be used for the cemetery for a variety of purposes. I believe the purpose that was suggested by Ms. Ferguson was drainage to help the houses that were beneath it, but the spirit of the gift was so that it could increase access to the cemetery, and it was for maintenance. That's my recollection. And so even though if the check came with nothing, it was subject to the terms of the will, which left us the gift. But those were the terms, they were pretty broad. It could be used for maintenance, but the spirit of the gift is that it would be used to make sure that people could use the cemetery.
Right.
That's my recollection.
So then I think at this point, I'd like to check with, thank you, but with Jeff Walter, what he said to me, and so I'd like to clear it up, because I think as many, I've been told there's only room for one more grave, and I think that's at the Vets Cemetery, and there are other things that are very important, and so I'd just like to find that out and get that judgment from Jeff Walter to see how we might move forward. But I thank you for saying it hasn't been spent, because I didn't know what happened to it, but I appreciate at least that'll stay open and we can, check again with the city attorney.
Right, and the funds were received in fiscal year 2021, so that's why it's not noted in the
Okay,
21,
thank you for helping. I'm sorry, I'll let you.
Were there any issues that you raised yesterday that I missed that you had an outstanding question about, or anything about the budget overall?
I have, you didn't miss it, I didn't bring it up, but I have an additional item. Should I say it now? Oh, okay. So I'm just in terms of the police contract, the idea is to restore the vacant deputy position and also restore the CSO, and I wouldn't support that. I don't think we should do that. We had a lot of negotiations with the sheriff's department in connection with their contract. We are not in a position to have a fair negotiation with them, because basically when you don't like what they tell you the terms are, they're like, okay, we won't be your police. That was the whole negotiations. You're like, well, I don't think this is good, or I want more information. They would be like, okay, well, we don't have to do this contract. So it's not, we weren't really in a good spot to.
And were you part of, I think you
I
were
was
part
on
of
that, yeah, I spent a lot of time on that.
That people need to understand, I
Yeah.
think, that we're just given the bill,
Yeah,
and the Board of Supervisors and the Sheriff's Department, they negotiate it, and then they pass it on to us.
well, it was more than that. There was a, when we
Give
were.
and take?
There was no give and take. It was really like, we're the sheriff and we provide your police, and we don't care about doing this, but if you want us to do it, this is the cost. It was a little bit hostile. So, I guess I think that if we are being fiscally responsible, given that we still haven't rebuilt our reserves, I would say I would keep those positions vacant for another year. That's what I would do. Anyway.
So with respect to that, is there a way to, when we go through the quarterly, maybe that's something that will change that situation, especially if we're saying fiscally, it may not be possible, but it may be possible, I don't know.
I mean, I guess I'm curious, what is the dollar amount that goes with the proposed restoring of those positions? Because, I mean, I know there's also just with COLA or whatever.
Sue will pull that up for you. So it's a full year position of the deputy, and then a half year position of the CSO, which would roll into a full year next year.
Because I want
Because
to
that
say
person wouldn't be hired.
they're like $275 each. So that
The CSO is a little less, but you're right in terms of the deputy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sue will check that out. And just to be clear, it's in the proposed budget, so your motion would be to remove that if the majority decided to do that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I do have a question. There's been some mention about the plaza, that I guess the rough state that it's in. But we need to remember how many people are there today. We continuously have people that are on that plaza, whether in, the pandemic, there weren't so many, obviously, but it just seems to get a lot of use. We need to remember that. That's not just because somebody's not doing the job. That's a very popular place to be. And I think it's going to get even more popular, but we have to understand that that's part of this situation as well. Thank you. Oh, and I'm sorry. Bob?
There was some discussion yesterday by Councilmember Harrington about the core nonprofit groups and changing the terms of either the number of years of the contract or going to a different amount? How did that end up?
So if indeed you would like to, let's take the first issue of changing the terms, you would want to make that as your motion today. If you wanted to say that the proposed resolution, it's the second part of your action tonight, that allows the city manager to enter into contracts, you would say that the manager shall only enter into 1-year contracts, not 3-year contracts. Perfectly acceptable amendment. I think the bigger issue, if you want to talk about changing the funding formula, is a little longer discussion that you'd want to have, especially with the groups affected. I think it's an interesting and maybe a good idea to have the funding not a fixed amount, but a percentage amount. But you'll want to wrestle tonight whether you thought that's appropriate to do tonight or something to work on in the next 6 months in advance of the next year's budget.
Because as far as I'm aware, the nonprofits would much prefer having a 3-year contract so that they could do some long-range planning rather than just getting it year by year from the city. And so I would be in favor of keeping the 3 years.
Yeah, I'm not against the 3 years. It's just that the policy we have is that 1.5% of certain revenues must be spent, shall be spent, whatever the words are, on recreation, and that 90% of that will go to these partners. And so because that amount varies, and 10% would be discretionary to the council, but that amount obviously varies year to year. What is 90%? And so all I was saying is, why don't we figure out what percent each nonprofit basically gets of that, and then say that they will get that percent of the 90%, so that it has an automatic escalation as revenue increases or as revenue decreases, but that it's not a fixed amount.
I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem if we would pull it back to a 1-year
Yeah,
contract.
I think it makes sense for them to plan on a 3-year scale.
So,
Well-
I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilman.
Well, my question is sort of the structure of this. I mean, we have a binder in front of us. Do you want to go through section by section? Because we're sort of like pulling out, various things, and it's sort of, in my view, a little disorganized. So I would prefer if we just sort of go through.
Where these items are.
Well, I mean, I don't really have a preference. I just want to know how we're going about this, because I have comments about the, how we fund our nonprofits. I have comments about the public safety. Maybe this is a question for you. How are we going about this?
Well, I thought we were gonna go order by order, but possibly, Mr. Kiff, you're just pulling out questions that have been asked and answering them?
Yeah, but I think the next step, as Mr. Barnett is saying, is to take them one by one as kind of like additions or subtractions to the budget.
Right.
And then you could do a straw vote and say, I'm supportive of that. And then in the end, the things that were supported would come together as one action. That's one way to do it.
I mean, unless there's a better way, I think that makes sense organizationally.
You're saying basically that one way to approach this is to start at page 49 and just kind of go through all of the items and see if anyone has it page by page. Is that your proposal?
Well, yeah, I
Fine.
mean, the binder is divided in different departments, and at the end, they discuss like the primary funding additions or subtractions, and if we have any issues with that, or if we support it, we move on to the next section. It could go fairly quickly. It would be sort of an organized process.
That's how I thought we would be doing it, I don't know.
Madeline, what do you think about Kelso, or Councilmember Barnett, Mayor Agrimonti? What do you think about Kelso Barnett running us through his idea of how we might do it?
Yeah, why don't
go
you
ahead.
do that?
I just did.
No, I meant do it.
Okay, well,
Just interrupt for a second. I'm just trying to get a sense of timing here as when public comment might be offered and appropriate in this deliberation.
I don't think that we have any way of answering that.
It's important to do it before you start deliberating.
It sounds like we're talking about a process of straw votes and deliberations, so that's why I'm asking.
So I think the time is now.
Well, all right. Then
No,
you're,
just getting my notes.
okay.
Thank you. First, let me just start by saying congratulations to Felder and his appointment. I think you all made a terrific choice. Amy, I'm sorry you're resigning. I thank you for your efforts for the city. I know you worked hard at it, and you produced some good results. So thank you. I sent a letter to the council about affordable housing development, giving some ideas about revenue enhancement of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I'm not going to review all that tonight because it's too much and it's too complex. But I hope that in future discussions about budgets and adjustments to the budget, you might consider some of these revenue enhancement ideas. Before retiring, I was in business for 43 years. I owned and operated firms small and large, local and national, privately held and publicly owned. At its largest, one of my companies employed 80 salespeople alone. Creating and evaluating budgets was an essential activity as it is for government. Business and government, however, are not exactly the same. Government exists not to make a profit, but to provide services to the community that ensure its health and welfare. In order to do that, like a business, government must properly spend and account for the public's money. The government budgeting process should provide the public with all the information it needs to understand and evaluate the way public money is spent. And my concerns about this budget process is that it does not provide enough information. The devil, it is said, is in the details, and it is the details that regrettably are absent. Using the documents evaluating the validity of the operating costs of the city is nearly impossible to accomplish. Instead, the public and the city council is presented with line item summaries. The underlying assumptions are not provided, nor enough detail on expenses. Although government must generate income, as a business must, its primary financial activity is spending, and it is through the careful control of expenses that the public's money is protected. It's virtually impossible for the public to determine what salaries of all the city's employees are, and accordingly the true cost of government on a granular level. There is no presentation on how employee time is accounted for, and therefore no way to evaluate productivity. During my 12 years on the City Council, I failed to accomplish the sort of financial accountability I found to be necessary in the business world. At one point, a past city manager agreed with me that proper cost accounting to control expenses and develop budgets would make sense, but as he put it, we don't have to do that, we're a monopoly. I hope the new city manager and this city council will bring the city of Sonoma's financial and budgeting process fully into the 21st century and provide the citizens with a transparent, fully informative, and professional budgeting process. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to say thank you. You're probably one of the few people that stayed within 3 minutes. I had problems getting people to shorten it, but I guess it's the pandemic. I have no idea. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Vice Mayor Ding. Congratulations to the both of you on your official roles. Mark Bodenhammer here speaking on behalf of the Sonoma Valley Chamber of Commerce. First of all, I want to start off just telling you how honored and privileged I am to represent our organization and to partner with the city on this contract that we have for economic development services. It really just is a system that I think is extremely functional for our community. It's very efficient. It uses organizations in the community that have expertise, not just us, but all the other organizations that contract with the city. And I think we're in really good financial shape because we outsource a lot of this stuff to local organizations that have specialized local knowledge and work directly with the community. And the results have been awesome. Not just speaking for us. I'm talking about things like the Community Center, the Visitors Bureau, SOS, all the other organizations that you work with. We're really proud to be here. We're really proud to serve this community, and we thank you sincerely for the opportunity to do so. Mentioning the contract length, I just did want to touch on that. I think that there's benefit not just for the organizations, and let's just put it on the table, it benefits me to have the 3-year agreement rather than a 1-year agreement, so I just want to acknowledge that. But I also think that it adds value to the city. I think having the city know who is going to be performing these services next August and not just doing it year by year and figuring it out, it's better for everybody. It's continuity, and definitely we have a lot of change going on at the city. Watching the clock. Mayor. And I think this is a good time to hopefully, obviously, I'll respect and support whatever decision you guys make, but I think there's a lot of value in just having that continuity of service with the organizations that are out there serving this community. So thank you again on behalf of the Chamber, our board, our staff, and our organization, and appreciate the time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else who would like to step forward? Public comment? Are there any people from Zoomland? Oh, Zoomland. Nope. All right, at this point. Oh, all right.
There is no written, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry? No. Okay, then at this point, I guess we'll close public comments.
So should we have Kelso walk us through this?
Yes, Kelso.
All right.
Okay.
Councilmember Barnett, let's
All
do
right,
it.
thank you, Councilwoman Harrington. Let's just start with, I guess, page 53 of our binder. Do we want to have any sort of broad discussion about the revenue side first? Is there any questions from the council about that?
I don't have any questions.
Basically, as I mentioned yesterday, so far, fiscal year 2019 and 20 has passed. I haven't seen any, actual number yet. So that is a minor concern. So I pretty much for sure that the number is there, but I'm not sure we are ready to, and using this number for the projecting next year's budget. That is but everything put on this binder. Yep, I would like to see it as a good reference. We are not can use it, and for the next years, because there's so many stuff, at least for me, because I'm the new city council member, and also a lot of the readings I couldn't fully understand, and even some of the breakdown. So the overall, I agree with the council member Barnett. Yeah, maybe we can go through the one by one, get a chance to get familiar. If you ask me to say the yes or no, it's very difficult for me to say yes and no. We just only can discuss.
Right.
Maybe we can identify it and the questions and then leave it. And another question maybe is later we can discuss, because today is the day for us to review the budget, and hopefully we can get approved. I'm wondering if without this budget, our city still can run and the next fiscal year. That is next couple of the weeks. So maybe Agrimonti and Amy, you have the experience for this kind of budget, and if you can share experience for us, and basically we will agree. But I still have a lot of questions.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's
Yeah.
I mean that's the goal, to go through and ask all the questions in each section in sort of an organized fashion.
Yes.
And the budget has to be approved by July 1st, correct?
June 30th, I think.
Or June 3rd? I mean, yeah, when the fiscal year starts.
We don't have any ability to spend any money if the budget isn't approved by the end of June 30th.
Correct.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Page 53, City Council section. I guess that's us. I had a question. What is the LCC annual conference?
League of California Cities.
Okay. Do we typically send people to that?
We usually go to that.
Yes, I went there
Okay.
last time. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
But that's interesting that you say that, because we didn't do anything this year.
This is for next year, though.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yes.
I don't know where it
So,
happens to the money.
so when
gets
you
carried
don't
over.
spend the money, it just goes into fund balance. It's part of the reserves.
That's what
right?
I was gonna say.
Okay.
My only comment about this was when I was looking at the budget cost centers, I had spoken to Dave about the idea of assigning a current employee 0.4 to the city council to some of the support we need. And because we don't have a cost center, as far as I could tell, you know, there wasn't a department for the city council in here. You couldn't add an employee. That's what it appeared to me. But what I had requested was that appoint somebody who is a 1.0 FTE be split into a 0.6 where they are currently, and added a 0.4 to the city council.
Staff.
A staff, yeah. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out when I looked at the cost centers, how that would be, because it looked like the city council was like wrapped up under maybe the city manager's cost centers.
Yeah, just so you know, Councilmember Harrington, I respect that point, and you and I had a little dialogue, either email or otherwise, about it. My recommendation as the departing city manager would be that this is something you talk with Garrett about rather than adopt it into the budget. I know there's great sensitivity wherever city managers and councils go as to how staff is assigned. And it's just not a position I felt comfortable making for Garrett before Garrett arrives.
Yeah, I guess I would just say, in light of my leaving, since I can say this today, and perhaps it's typical everywhere, I don't know, because this is my only experience as a city council, the lack of support for the city council makes it really hard for volunteers to do this job. And as a person who runs their own business and is a parent of school-age children, it's even harder. So, like, you know, if you want to make this job doable for volunteers, you got to provide more support. And if you want people like who have kids to do this job, you're going to have to make some accommodations. And so the system now, which is like, well, if you can't do it, you should leave. That's the system I'm part of. It's too bad that's the system. So I really hope that some real thought goes into, if you want other types of people to participate, women with children, you're going to have to make some hard choices and say, we're going to provide the support that's needed so that it's a little bit easier for you to do it. So I just really hope, in light of like making workplaces where we can have women participate, this kind of stuff is really important.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. I agree with you. I have fought for different things here just to even get the name council chambers on this facility. I was told it's impossible because redevelopment agency paid for it. People came out and they were angry that it should have stayed community center. I feel this is where government is done and the community is invited in. But I agree with you. I think it was, I don't even know what day this is. I think it was probably Sunday afternoon. I was asked to provide a support letter for a grant for an organization here. I had no one to do that. I did this myself. I got the thing in PDF, tried to make it fit, put it on my foundation letterhead at 1:30 in the morning because this thing needed to be, I think, received by 8 a.m. I did this by myself. I had no one to talk to about it. And I think I agree with you, Amy, 100%. I think it's a culture that's here. I can say that some years ago when I first got on the city council, people were, they were pretty helpful. And I mean, the world that we're in now is very different. I think the workplace of a city clerk is far more broad than it used to be. So it's not as easy to get these things done. But I don't feel, even food for this meeting, you have to call and say, we might want sandwiches. I think there's some things, I have to say culturally, I feel that there's no respect for the city council. Everybody is very nice to us, but I was told by a city treasurer, he said, grow up, everybody has to be nice to you. And so I just think we need to know, somewhere in this, there has to be something for a city council. So when you have to do a letter, you have to get up at 1:30 and do it by yourself. Nobody helps. And that would normally be a staff.
So the decision is now you could either add a 0.4 or you can wait till Garrett and have the conversation with him. I know that we went to Memorial Day, there were 3 of us there. We were happy to be there. It was a really beautiful ceremony, but Madeline was supposed to read a proclamation at that, and there were none, and Kelso and I both were asked to print it out, and now it's embarrassing to be at an event where you're representing the city and you don't have the basic materials. And so things like that, which could happen, it's not, you know, because there's too much work to do, it would be nice if those things did not happen. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. If
So
anybody,
is there a way then, am I hearing that something could, oh, well, I'm just asking.
so the option that I suggested was creating a .4 position under the city council, which would be staffed by a current 1.0 in a different department and make them .6 and add .4 to the city council. That was the suggestion I made. And Dave has said that he thinks it would be more apropos to discuss that with Garrett and change it at that time if he thinks it's advisable.
And that, you know, I find that's, I understand that, but the city council's still gonna be here and we're still gonna have the same problems. And so I think I want to take your suggestion and put it in there.
We have the ability to amend the budget mid-year, correct?
Yes.
I mean, meaning
Right.
if our new city manager comes in and we have that conversation with him, we can still amend the 21-22 budget, correct?
So possibly, well, then there should be a.
The way I think about things is there something somebody would say that would change my mind, or they think it's such a good idea and it's so important that we could have the conversation, but it would really be out of politeness and I would not be actually open to the arguments against it. And it's just good to be honest with yourself. So you're saying, I really want this position, I really think it's important, and I've been doing this for 7 years, and I think that it's very important to me, and I can politely ask you your opinion, but I'm still very sure that I really want this to happen, you know, then I would say do it now, because it's not a real, it's a decision, it's a discussion out of politeness, not a real decision. But if you really think you want to talk to Garrett and he's going to give you his perspective about why it might not be good and you're going to be open to that, then you should
Well, but you know
wait
what?
to talk to Garrett. I mean, that's what I am so busy that when people have fake conversations with me where the decision's already made, I can't stand it. So like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't like that, but you know.
So has anyone else want to chime in here?
Yeah, I basically, in order to, the city runs in a smoothly, properly way, and today we just approve this budget as is, but we preserve the opportunity to make amendment in the future, and chapter by chapter. Today, if we go through, I'm afraid not. You know, in this way, I believe, you know, official, you know, amendment should be not only once, twice, or until become accurate and meet a requirement. So that is, otherwise, I look at in a couple of the pages, for example, today I look at it in finance department, the budget, you know, total is the 800,000 something. You know, some of the local residents ask me, you know, questions. I said, I really cannot answer some of the questions. So I needed the time. And also, some of the, you know, the detail I need to go through with the city manager and finance director, and also we can review and go through each of the position. And maybe the title or job duty, maybe we need to change. And in this way, is it more properly to meet the future requirement. For example, I have the idea, and I look at the finance department and the job, and the money goes to, and 90% that will go to internally in the management. You know, I'm wondering under this kind of specific situation, and maybe we can find somebody, you know, internally, see if they can reach out, try to develop some of the financial resource.
So, Mr. Vice Mayor Ding, are you talking still with the City Council office, or you've moved on?
No, right now I just talk about the finance
Okay,
department.
we're on talking about the City Council office, and we're talking about the position that Amy has been
Okay,
talking
so
about.
straw vote, do you want to
Okay.
add a .4 to the city council from a clerk who works somewhere else? Yes for Madeline, yes for me, Jack?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Bob, yes.
No.
Okay, so straw vote is
4-1.
4-1. Yes, add the .4.
So what we would do then is, I guess, create a budget unit for the council that includes .4 of of a staff time and 0.6 on the other. Remember, that person still works for the city manager.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, that, I don't, which is why part of this is a semantic discussion. There's no reason that Garrett couldn't come in and say to this person, 40% of your time is going to be to the city council. You're going to make sure they get the dinners okay, the resolutions, the letters, all those things. There's no reason he can't do that, which is why that was my preference. I certainly,
But
you
that's-
talked about it
I
a
don't
full
think, well, that's
one.
apples and oranges, we're
No.
not talking about that.
It's,
I think
it's-
we know where the resolutions come from. That's not what I believe we're talking about.
I think it's more like, I understand what you're saying, and perhaps it's symbolic, but it's an important symbol. And I would just say, like, you know, all of City Hall works for the public and they report to their manager. So it's not different. If you're giving a permit application, you're working with the direct person who comes to the counter and you're helping them get their permit, and you still report to your supervisor, but the work you're doing is person to person with whoever you're working with.
So if this individual was in last year's budget, how would you have used this employee?
So I think there's a lot of, like, so now, again, we talked about having an events calendar for the council in advance so that you know what the events are that we should be going to, so that we don't have a thing like where there's something where they would like a city council representative. We get a ton of notes, which right now we send to the city manager, which I think one answer could be written and then that person can help us circulate it. I think that there are other technical things that come up about being on these various boards and commissions that person could help us with.
So the city clerk's office has requested a new FTE. Is that something that could perhaps?
It's not even part of that discussion, though. It's
Well, I'm just saying,
something
is
very
that something that could be shared through the city?
I don't think so.
Well, I
You
thought
don't?
the
Okay.
FTE for the city clerk was to take over the work that's already more work than the city clerk herself can do.
Well, we haven't gotten to the city clerk section yet, so
Anyway.
maybe, okay.
Well, I think.
Trying to be
there's-
organized
there-
here,
okay,
but-
so Kelso, you said no, the four.
Well, yeah, it's
said
4-1.
yes? Okay,
I mean,
so
I think it
then-
is a cultural thing, in the sense that, I've just always viewed this sort of as I mean, we still are sort of a small town city council, and I do think, you know, support is important, and what Councilwoman Harrington said in terms of attracting young mothers, and, you know, I understand that, and so I'm sympathetic to that, but I'm also sympathetic to our city manager's argument, and, you know, I'm trying to think personally how I would have used this employee, and I just don't know exactly how I would have. And so that's why it's difficult for me to support it, but
Let me say this, we have a
Yeah.
300-page budget and we voted 4-1, and I totally appreciate that, but
We'll
are
move it
are we gonna?
I think we're gonna move on to the next section, which is the city clerk's office, appropriately. I just wanted to say about the city council budget, though, it looks like over the last historically, it looks like it's all in line, and so I think it's fine. Okay, so, city clerk, basically the request is a new full-time employee, but then the reduction, it's really just a plus 9,000. I think we talked about that last night. I don't know if that's exactly right. Any comments or thoughts about the city clerk's section here?
I think was there.
So
a
it's
concession?
$95,000 is the cost, because we have one position which is vacant that I don't think was gonna be refilled, which was the part-time position that Lisa Jansen had. So in actual dollars, it is, there are vacant positions which we are not spending money on. So in actual dollars, it's $95,000 that is not being spent currently. That's correct.
Well,
But it's-
the part-time person, it would take the salary of the part-time person, which is 32,000. So, so we would get rid of that position. It would be a full-time position, so. it's
I'm
really-
just- I
The
think-
addition is, you know, is 65,000. It's the difference.
I just wrote down yesterday, I asked you what the difference was, it was 95
I
with
know,
benefits.
and I didn't get to finish my thought.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, but what I was saying is that the part-time position was budgeted at 32. The new position is budgeted at 95, so the difference is 65. So it's an additional 65, and not 95.
What is the total cost with benefits?
98, actually.
Okay, so it's 98 is the new cost.
Is the total cost of that position.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the part-time position was 32,000.
Okay.
And then it says reduction in election expense, but is that gonna come back in?
It will
because-
come back in.
Okay. So I would be open to that if that new position could be the city council support role that you were discussing.
But it's apples and oranges. Is that, we're still.
How?
Does, well, this, they're asking, I believe, for some from the city clerk's office.
Right.
For something else, and I think, possibly.
Well, but in terms of like scheduling and resolutions, it seemed like
That
it was.
doesn't come from them. It's never been my experience.
Okay.
I mean, there's always help, but it's not my experience, it's not actually someone assigned to do those, what Amy suggested. If we're still talking about that last.
Well, yeah, I was thinking maybe this would be a way to sort of try to
No,
be a
because I
win-win.
think that position sounds like it's gonna be pretty busy, as it was explained.
Of course.
It's very important, that position, and I actually think that might be open for discussion with Garrett. Maybe that's something, I mean, I'm sure he would believe in it, but he's pretty creative. I mean, maybe he knows, as Jack has suggested, grants.
All right, straw vote on who wants to add the additional position to the city clerk's office. Kelso.
Well, I support it if it can be.
Okay, let's say as written, do you support this, yes or no?
Well, I mean, I'm open to it. I would like to see what the rest of the council thinks.
Well,
I personally would like, well, I mean, I just stated my position. I do support it, but I want this
no,
person.
as written,
Okay,
do you
well,
support it?
Well, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
I mean, I
Madeline?
said, yeah.
Yes, I do.
I do.
I mean, it's.
Okay.
I think
All
the
right.
city clerk's office is
City
moving
manager
into a whole
section.
new realm,
Page
and I think
59.
this is what was needed. Okay.
The increases, salary benefits, obviously, we've discussed this when we approved Mr. Toy's budget, or contract.
Can I just ask, so there's different enterprise funds. Is the amount shown here the total or just the total for this department?
The total for, that's
Like
just the
the
total.
city manager's salary is charged to the water fund and to the city manager's office. Is this the total or is this just the total charge to the city manager's office?
So part of it is charged to actually the redevelopment,
Or it doesn't even, I'm just saying, like, is this
That's not the total
100% or is
salary.
this a portion?
That's a portion. So
Okay.
the other portion is in the
Right, water fund.
RDA.
Okay,
So,
what percent is this?
And how are those percentages determined?
Well, the way that it was determined this year was because we can only, the redevelopment agency, we get a administrative cost.
Yeah.
And this year it was reduced to 50,000. So we used to be able to allocate more to the city's managers, but we had to, it's allocated differently now based on how much we get back in administrative cost to reimburse us for that. So,
Okay.
okay, and I can get, I don't have the exact percentage here, but I can tell you that.
So it's only redevelopment and the city manager, because I remember when we were doing the water rate study, we talked about allocating staff time to the water fund, and the percentage that would be used for management staff was gonna be set.
Yeah, and the allocations are set. There isn't, the only positions that are allocated to water are the frontline, like some of the frontline personnel, and then I have somebody in finance who's allocated to.
Oh, okay, so the
To
city
water.
manager isn't allocated to
No.
the water fund, just
No.
redevelopment.
I guess one of my just sort of high-level questions is, in 3 years, the city manager's budget has gone from 470 to 740, and obviously there's been increases with our new city manager and the salary, but that seems like a significant increase, and is there just sort of an answer why? I mean, I'm looking at the line items here, but
So part of it is that there used to be a part-time administrative assistant and it went to a full-time administrative assistant.
okay,
So that's.
that's a primary reason.
That's,
Where's that?
Okay,
and then there's a senior management analyst in there.
okay.
That's-
Since
that's the
18,
increases.
19,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's the
Who's
answer.
Full-time administrative assistant.
Who is it? It's Rita.
Oh, Rita's, oh, I see.
She went from part-time to full-time.
Okay. All right, so are we okay with the city manager section?
Absolutely.
Looks great.
Okay. Finance section. This is also in the last 3 years gone from about 555 to 835, you know, significant, similar.
So part of the council's decision was to add an
Right.
accountant
Yeah,
and the deputy finance director. So we have 2 accounting technicians, 1 accountant, and the deputy finance director, myself. And that was based on council and, you know, how we felt the department should be staffed so that we could, you know, get back into a normal finance position.
And I think the auditor recommended some of
Yes.
that also, yeah.
okay.
Great.
I'm okay with that. Legal service? Oh,
I have the,
Vice Mayor.
yeah, question. So it's possible we can add an additional job for the, you know, development and sourcing and the finance, you know, sourcing? Or what is the proper way if we find a source development and or grant writer or something like that under the city manager or under the finance? Because I haven't seen that. We have lost a lot of the opportunities to apply those kind of fund from the federal, from the state. Most of them that are first come and the first serve. Even, you know, the local in here in the county, we also lost a lot of the, you know, chances. So now I want to see if it's possible we can do some internally, you know, made changes, job position. Maybe we can and see if anybody has this kind of potential. They are doing, you know, the accountant, and also they can find out outside this kind of channel.
Vice Mayor Ding, the good points of talking about improving our grant writing capacity. I would urge you, I'm going to sound like a broken record tonight, to talk with Garrett about this. There are very different concepts you could do. You could bring in a grant writer as a contractor for $5,000 or $10,000 a year that focused on specific areas. You could, as you're noting, Vice Mayor Ding, he could search out who has a staff talent and carve out some time in that staff's hours of the week to work on that. Those are all good things. I would though very, very respectfully resist plugging that in now without his input.
So you means that is the money you will put additional or?
So there's different, you could, as you're noting, Councilmember Ding, again, Garrett could do a solicitation of the staff, talk with the department heads, who in our team may have an interest and some time in their day to work on grant writing, and let's send them to training. Let's expand that capacity. That's something you could do with the current budget. He could also come back to you and say, you know what, I really do need a grant writer for $50 an hour for a certain amount of time per month or per year, and then he may ask for a budget augmentation in mid-year or September or October to do that. Again, it could be $5,000 or $10,000.
Okay.
I really do like this idea, and I understand. I think that would be something for Garrett to look at. But I know there are certain things that are available out there, and I think I agree with you 100%. We need to think a little bit differently, other than our revenue and expenditures, and I think grant writing would be an opportunity, especially now when there's money out there possibly for this purpose.
Where is the new funds for changing over the accounting software shown?
Yeah.
That's in the non-departmental.
Okay,
Okay.
and why isn't that under finance?
Well, because it's.
Oh, because it's
Affects
I'm
committee?
everything.
sharing it
Oh.
with Wayne, so.
Okay.
Is that, yeah. We'll
So-
get there.
There's finance in here 3 times.
That's a good question.
I did
I was just
notice.
noticing that too,
Yeah.
Bob. Yeah, we have it 3 times.
What?
Sue wants
That's how
3 times the
important it
money.
is.
It was a
Yeah.
lot of work at late at night. It's
We
in-
have
I just moved on, I just figured that was, it's all the same, right? We can just move on to legal, okay, so legal is everyone okay with finance?
Yes.
Council, okay, so legal services.
Read the same pages, please.
So page 72.
72, legal services. Expenses over the years have actually gone considerably down, which is good. Any comments? Code enforcement, attorney contract.
So I guess, I don't, maybe, it seems like our vacation rental enforcement is not, particularly robust. Maybe that's just my impression of it, I don't know.
They actually do a, fairly good job, and we are recouping. I think we recouped about close to 30,000 this year. And so, it's a, we tried an outside program, but then it was good in the beginning and then not. There are programs out there and they do pay for themselves just in the, and we have looked at HDL, which has provided some of our business license, and they do have a program, but right now I just felt like they're doing a pretty good job, based on, the amount of revenue we've recouped. Maybe we could recoup more. But I just feel like we're doing okay for right now, so.
And this obviously just shows the expenses, but when we recoup, when it pays
So,
for itself,
yeah.
how do we?
I know,
Yeah.
and this is the first place I've been where all the revenue went into just revenue in the general fund. It wasn't like allocated out to each department. That could be a change down the road.
Yeah, should be.
But it's all in the general fund revenue, but
Okay.
there is a line item. I had them separated out so
Yeah.
that we could see it, so we know exactly how much revenue is coming in for that.
And then do you know what the revenue is roughly for the parking enforcement?
This year was not much, and obviously there's no reparking. and
Seems like a
we
good
stopped-
year
we
to
stopped
not,
enforcing
There was no
that.
enforcement.
Gift tickets, yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping that it will come back up to the 65,000 that we had budgeted.
Oh, okay.
And again, we have a new company that's handling the ticketing and everything for us, or the recoupment of the cost, but we haven't really had a chance to try them out yet.
So
And
co-
that's a shout out for Eileen Adams, she's back on the job.
Yes, we're so happy to have her.
We called her VIP, and I was so excited to see her, I screamed at her, and I think I scared her. I said, welcome back.
Yeah. So basically
Was she
code
ticketing
enforcement
you?
pays for itself.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it pays for a lot, so, yeah.
All right, any other questions on that section or comments, council? All right, public safety, police department, Councilwoman Harrington, you already had some comments about this. They want to restore the vacant deputy position, restore the CSO position mid-year.
But before you go further, Orlando, Chief Rodriguez did text me, and I want to make sure we're clear about this. So he said, the city can't stop funding the vacant deputy. There's a contract with the city and the county, the sheriff, that the city will fund 10 deputies, 2 sergeants, and 1 chief. The sheriff and the city agreed to keep that position vacant for a year, but that is per a contract, and if there is an agreement on the other side to keep that vacant, even if the council wanted to. The CSO position is different. And for pricing, the deputy position is $317 fully loaded. The CSO is $160 fully loaded. And half a year is in the budget, so 80 is in the budget.
So, I'm sorry, that's a CS.
Community services officer.
And SRO?
No.
There's two different things.
No, that's a different, this is someone who's out in the city of Sonoma, not in the schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that, 317?
317 is the fully loaded cost of the additional deputy per the contract.
Which we're already contractually obligated.
That's what Chief Rodriguez notes.
Okay, I like it.
Well, I would suggest not restoring the CSO until the city's come closer to, a normal year, complete a normal year, and then consider restoring it. But
What kind of tasks did the CSO officer, what do they do for the public's edification?
I know generally what CSOs do, I don't know if.
Like animal
Orlando could
control,
jump in. Yeah,
those kind of.
it would be
Yeah.
the typical things that don't require a
Right.
sworn presence.
Right.
Right, so it really does save time for the sworn officers to focus on the larger events.
And we have a contract. Do we have the discretion, and I don't know if we have the support for that today, but if we wanted to add an additional officer, is that something that we could do in the future, or is that something where you have to reopen the entire contract?
so you can't add one officer because one officer works a certain number of days, and then when they are off, someone has to be on, and so one officer is like 3 people. I mean, one
Is that-
position
right.
is multiple people. And I'm sure that if you talk to the sheriffs, they would be happy to negotiate to add those positions, but there is no such thing
But
as.
it wouldn't just be,
It's not one person. It's not
No, I
one
understand that.
317. It's
Okay.
317 times probably 3.
Councilmember Harrington is absolutely correct. If you said, I want one more deputy on a shift at all
correct.
times.
So it's, right.
Correct. If,
So
I
it's not just
guess the
317,
nuance,
it's like
the
$1 million.
nuance to that would be if the city had a communication with the sheriff's office and said, I want one person who's gonna specialize in X, and I know that person is only gonna be working a 40-hour week
Mm-hmm.
job. That is something you should check with Garrett and Orlando about, but that would not be uncommon to have a specialty assignment
Okay,
versus a shift assignment.
okay. So I guess the only issue here is the CSO officer. You do not support that? Or you want to do a straw vote?
Yeah,
I do.
you want it.
Yeah, I support that.
Jack?
Yeah, I support.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Fire department,
I have a lot of concerns. No, I don't. I have no concerns at all.
yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
So while you're looking at this, I just want to credit the chief and his team with some really good work on especially the transport side of things and including making sure that we're eligible for assistance for Medi-Cal and Medicaid eligible transport. So that's become a good source of revenue that helps offset their costs. And it's not an easy process to secure those funds.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just a plug, I think not many cities get the revenue from the fire department for the EMS services directly. That's really rare that we have that, and we're so lucky, and it covers so much. And also, just in terms of like having our firefighters in the community, talking to seniors and talking to people who are sick, it's so wonderful as representatives of our community. So, and I know that Chief Aker is always looking for opportunities to kind of like maximize everything. So thank you very much.
So I think, Jack, you have a question about grants?
Yeah, grants now under here, under the fire department, I saw that.
Page 84.
Yeah, 84. That is awarded on the $3.3 million CFA grant from the FEMA. And that is Department to the Homeland Security, right, should provide. So can you describe a little bit more the detail for this?
Yes, absolutely. I would be happy to. So the SAFER grant that we received, one of our fire captains wrote a grant 2 years ago. This is a grant program. SAFER stands for Staffing and Adequate Firefighter Resources. It's a federal program that adds staffing to try to meet national standards. We typically, a national standard is 4 firefighters on an engine company. Typically in California, the standard tends to be 1 less than that, and so we run with 3. That's always been our department's standard as well, but historically, and this goes back to the early 90s when we first came together as partners with Valley of the Moon and City of Sonoma, we only had 2 career firefighters on the engine. And we filled that 3rd spot with a volunteer, which was great in terms of cost effectiveness. It was wonderful to provide those opportunities to our volunteers for training and development.
So 2 more hours, maybe 3.
But, that's right. But as we've seen over the years, the ability for people to volunteer and meet the training requirements and the time requirements, it's dropped significantly. So now what we found was less than 50% of the time did we have 3 people on the engine company. And so to put it into real basic terms, we have 1 firefighter that drives and operates the pumps. We have the captain who's in charge. And then if that's all you have on the engine company, you don't have anybody to pull the hose and actually put out the fire. So, I mean, that's very rudimentary, but that's how we're organized. That's how we work as a team to, be effective. So we got a SAFER grant for 12 positions. What that did was put the third career firefighter on each of the 4 stations within our department, the 3 in the district and the 1 in the city. What we've been able to do through our consolidation is in the districts was that brought a new funding source to us. So now we've made those 9 positions in the district permanent. So what we're doing now with the SAFER program here in the city is for this next year, the SAFER grant covers 75% of those 3 firefighters. And the city, through our fund balance, is able to cover the cost of the other 25%. The following year, SAFER drops down to only a 35% contribution. And so the city will be on, expected to cover 65% of the costs.
Right. And that is in the long-range plan, that amount is, so,
Yeah.
the following 2 years.
Yes. And so what we've tried to do as an organization through my board and our command staff is we've tried to bring initiatives to the city that will cover some of those costs potentially long-term for the council and city management to make the decision if those staffing positions could become permanent. And part of it is the EMS revenue that we've seen grow fairly substantially this year. Things like the fire impact fee. We're trying to bring solutions and opportunities as well as needs. So I hope does that answer your question, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, yes, yeah. Right now, I feel very comfortable for this money. And also, if any, the average in the 2 years or in the 3 years or just in a one time, the grant.
So the grant is typically a 3-year period.
Okay.
And what'll end up happening is we haven't expended all of the grant funds through the salaries and benefits, and so the grant will go about 3.5 years, just because those funds are assigned to us, and they won't take those funds away at the end of the 3 years. So it'll end up being about a 3.5-year period.
Did you apply that directly or through some of the agency or?
Directly.
Directly. That's
Yes.
good.
We've got a long history. 2 years ago, we got $500,000 from FEMA for new breathing apparatus. And in my history, I've been successful with SAFER grants in previous organizations, and so we've got a number of folks that really we work collectively to write a successful grant, and thankfully it's continuing.
That's wonderful. Yeah, you can generate the income, not only in the
Yes.
spend. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your questions.
And Vice Mayor, I think you really believe in the grant writing system.
Yes.
And that's what we as a city probably need to learn. So maybe there's some things that,
Yeah,
you're a
maybe in
grant
the future we can share. Yeah. You can share some of the how
knowledge.
to present us any skills.
We would
and
be
experience.
happy to work together on that.
And I know that there are expertise in grant writing for municipalities. So that's something that we need to identify, I think. How that happens,
And one
I
of the
think Jack is very interested in it.
Yeah, one of the things that's been very helpful here recently as well, and the city's capital affairs person, shall we call them, city manager, otherwise known as a lobbyist, has been very helpful for us in terms of identifying some of those grant opportunities and nuances within grant programs.
And I think, thank you for mentioning that, because I think we are sharing that cost with the other cities. And I think there was a suggestion that possibly we could enhance that with paying some amount more for it to be a concentration for the city of Sonoma. And that's just something Jack brought up.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions about fire? Looks good to me. Thank you, Chief. Let's move on to planning and community services. Page 90, 91. Is David Storer on the line? I do have a question for him.
Yes, I'm here, Councilmember Barnett.
Yes. Hi, David, wherever you are.
Hey.
You're asking to extend the term of the sustainability coordinator. I'm just curious, is indefinitely or for just through this fiscal year?
Yeah, the position was originally a 2-year part-time, and quite frankly, I'd like to get as much time out of Travis as we can. I could see it going a year for sure, hopefully with Travis. But at the end of the day, I think this is something that council will want to support indefinitely. I could be wrong, but I think that would be a good plan for the future.
So you're just, the request is just for this fiscal year?
Yes, sir, at the moment.
Okay.
I guess
I was just gonna say that part of his salary is reimbursed through the garbage contract. We get the, so there's,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
I know that it was a kind of a culture shift for people to start keeping track of their time, but in terms of us taking retainers and then billing against them and doing accurate bills, kind of what is the status of that, and is there any other support needed so that we can fully implement a system where we're...
No, actually, it is fully up and running.
Okay.
We have project accounting, that's something that we established this year, and we're gonna, and yeah, they do keep track of their time by project. So, and that's being fully billed against the deposits. So.
Oh, great. The cost recovery, the $85,000, what's that for?
So, so again, the revenue is up in the general fund revenue. And so whatever revenue we get, the actual revenue is 15% above whatever the expense is. So it's shown in it's actually a separate line item, but so say we got 100,000 in revenue, the expense is 85. So, I mean, that's kind of how we just, and it's not.
Sorry, I'm not following.
Well, the amount of revenue we make is really 15% on the, is 15, that we're allowed on the fees.
Sorry, can you just, what is the 85,000 in here? What is that?
That's the expense for cost recovery, and then the revenue is in.
But, sorry, what is the expense?
So as an example, right?
Right.
A staff member will work X amount of hours. That adds up over the year to
Yeah.
$85,000.
Oh, I see.
Right,
Okay.
or it
That's
could
your billable hours.
Correct.
Right, and it could be a
Okay.
contractor that's working against that particular project.
I got
That could
it.
be the expense.
Oh,
So-
okay. So the hours expected to be billed for projects next year is $85,000 of time.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, and it could be more. We have
It
more
basically
projects
doesn't
down
really
the-
matter,
It
because
doesn't
whatever
matter,
it
because
is-
it's always gonna be the 15%,
got
so, yeah. So,
Thank
and
you.
I do expect it actually to be more, but again, we don't really know when projects are coming
Sure,
in.
it's
so,
kind of a placeholder.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I know, I'm sorry I didn't explain that well, but.
In the future, it would be nice to see, obviously the revenue we take in with the expense, yeah.
Yeah, and I do, that would be something down the road that we would,
Yeah.
have to implement, is putting, especially in planning, and, there is revenue for, like, if you're gonna bill against the attorney, so there could be revenue in that fund
Right.
too. So, that would be something that we could change down the road, because it is confusing when all the revenue is just in the revenue general fund, and then you don't see it by department, so.
Right.
But
Good.
Because it's not really an expense. Not really. Because you already have the retainer, right? So you're just billing against it. So you're never expending it. Anyway. I don't know the rules of this accounting, so.
Yeah, and before we weren't recording the expense, we were just showing the revenue, so it was, you have to show the expense. So.
Makes sense.
Any other questions on planning? All right, building. Minor expense requests.
I'm wondering if we can assign more jobs to Wayne Wyrick. Would that be possible?
I would not want to drive Wayne out of the office. So
Just kidding. I'm like, could Wayne possibly have more hats? I don't think so.
Any comments or questions on building?
Great job
Looks
building.
good to me. All right. Public Works.
Is the public works section where the money for the plaza would be added, or would it be added somewhere else?
CIP or public?
we'd probably recommend that it go as a CIP so it can be tracked differently. Unless, Sue,
Yeah, that's fine. It would be a transfer out of the general fund to CIP.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah. So.
First section of Public Works is stormwater and administration. Looks good to me. Any questions? All right, street maintenance. Any comments on the slurry seal, Madeline? Or-
Satisfied this year.
Okay.
Street to maintenance.
Whether the sidewalk and the
Yes, I will.
$10,000, where it is, I didn't see. Because $10,000 should be from their general fund.
it's in the CIP, Councilmember, Vice Member Ding.
Yes,
And
sidewalks.
it's shown as a
Got to it.
transfer out
Right.
of the
Okay.
general fund to the CIP.
All right.
So parks. So the additional funding you want for the plaza is CIP, it would not go in the park section here, correct?
Yeah, it will show it as it transfers out.
Okay.
And then to the CIP, and then the CIP would create a project for it on the CIP side, so it'll go into the CIP fund.
Okay. Any comments on that? Are we done on parks?
Well, this is the, oh no, that's fine. Sorry.
So is the plaza in this? Is it?
So
It's
you
gonna
would
be
add,
CIP.
that just came up last night, excuse me.
What page are you on?
So we, if you
105,
wanted to
106.
add that, I'll make sure I bring it up at the end, and you could add that. Your adoption of the budget, including 20,000 or 30,000 for parks. That's what you'd say.
So
I'll help
ac-
you with that.
Yeah, and actually, Director Ferguson just said that probably most of the work will be done by our staff, so we will probably keep it in the Parks Division and not transfer it out as a CIP project, so.
Thank you. Somewhere, I'm sure, Fergie, I'm sorry, you know, it doesn't come easily off my tongue. I try so hard because I love your name and Colleen, and, but the fountain, as I said, it seems to be no one's fault, but I'm worried about the bubonic plague from that thing. It's really terrible, and possibly somewhere we were talking about money, getting it somewhere. Maybe there's some type of a way. I know there are landscape architects who understand the answers to that. There has to be something better than to clean it a couple of times a year or 3 times a year or quarterly, because it's such an eyesore, continues to be. I mean, I'm not telling you a secret, and I don't know what efforts can be made to make that more interesting.
Mayor Agrimonti, members of the council, if you're talking about just the basic maintenance that goes on every year of what we call the duck pond and the fish pond, even though there's no fish in there, the fountain in front of City Hall, separate from the other fountain that's over by the Rose Garden. But the duck pond, fish pond maintenance has been delayed this spring, and we're about to do it next week.
Right,
We'll
that's
do
what I
the maintenance,
understand.
but we need to do it in a modified way to not use more potable water than necessary. So we're gonna try something different, but we will be doing that routine maintenance. If it's a concept to redesign the fountain or something, or the fish pond we call, that could be part of the Plaza Enhancements CIP project. That's a different project. We're gonna be doing some maintenance. Plaza enhancements could also be undertaken.
Yeah.
I think the fountain in front of the plaza is historic, and it was the stones, the red ones are that historic Sonoma stone that was used in a variety of places from the quarry. I don't know about changing it. I think, yeah.
I'm not recommending changing. I'm just saying if there was change beyond just basic maintenance, that's where I would say that should be
Yeah,
undertaken.
and people don't like the stones. I have fallen in love with them because I know you would be beaten to death if you didn't like them. So what but I'm just talking about the pond, that water area itself. I don't know anything about filtration. I don't know. I think Steve used to say some connection between the fish pond and the Well, I don't know, I don't understand it. Maybe it would be even nice for us to just get some information on it, just so I could understand what's always happening with it. It's not that important, it's not necessary, but, I just thought,
The ponds are interconnected, and when we do the maintenance, we maintain both of them together, and we will be doing that very soon.
And as luck would have it, we, on the quarterly agenda item later today, is perhaps a discussion of putting on a future agenda the Plaza Fountain, or the fish pond in front of City Hall. Ron Wellender, the chair of the Planning Commission, has asked us to talk about that, as I think we all know, and so we can talk about that
just
later.
even, just a preliminary explanation of how it's cleaned up. Because
Yeah.
I've never heard that, and I don't know what
Oh, well, that's
and
different,
nobody
yeah.
needs to say it now, but it's just, it'd be interesting to me. Thank you. Thank you.
What is a line for property? I think it's property services. What is that item? It's $234,000 on page 106.
Am I in your way?
Oh, sorry. So there's a couple of contracts, like for Montini, some of those.
And why, I mean, since it's like a quarter of this budget, it'd be good to know what it is. And then also, last year, it was 165, and this year it's 234. Is there some change? Right, I mean, we would have to know what it is and why it's changed.
I'll get that answer for you. Just take me a minute, okay?
Hi, I have another question for Colleen. And how about the civic building itself? And how often we got on a power wash?
Oh, that's a good question. Washing the city hall,
Yeah.
very dirty, yeah.
That's another maintenance project that's in the works. I don't know the exact date that is scheduled, but it is going to happen soon. And I think we do it annually, but I'm not absolutely certain of that.
Usually annually. Okay, that.
I think I asked about that like 3 years ago, but they said that the stones are,
Oh.
no, they're like semi-permeable or something, so they have to be really careful when they wash it, and it's like a special thing, so they don't
I
wash
see.
the stones. I think they don't do it all the time, because they don't wanna, oh, Wayne knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the power washing of City Hall is done on an as-needed basis. Obviously, it's needed now, but we try not to do regular power washing of City Hall because it affects the mortar joints, and repointing the mortar joints would be a very expensive proposition. So we take really good care when we do the pressure washing to try to use a moldicide that's not going to hurt plants or the ducks or anything like that, and so it's not done as frequently as we would like to do it, but so it's really on an as-needed basis. So that's why it's going to be done this year.
So the large increase
That's great.
is property and liability insurance, which did go up 35% this year. So, yeah, and it will go up again next year. Nobody
Is that
can
because
get-
of fires?
Yes, and it's because nobody wants to write insurance in California anymore. So a lot of the larger insurers, and fortunately, we actually did, merge with the larger, and now we're CIRA, which actually helped us get insurance, because as a smaller organization, we may not even been able to get insurance, any company to write for us. So, but yeah, and it will go up next year too.
That's
so.
amazing, thank you.
Could I just make a comment? It's interesting about City Hall, all four sides are similar. And from what I understand historically, it was because people were jealous around the square, the plaza. They wanted their own area like that with an entrance and a big door. So everybody had to have the big door. And I think that's so interesting that even somebody cared to do it and that somebody did it. So that's why we have.
Yeah, that
these
is a
entrances.
different, yeah, that is the, representing the equal, residents of the city. Not like in some country, the building, they sit in the north, face to the south. That means shows authority.
Right.
Here's the
Oh,
equality.
that's right,
yeah.
okay. So as we move forward.
All right.
A very great job, thank you.
All right, let's move to community activities. This is where we talk about the community fund program, the contracts, there's a lot of discussion here, obviously.
So I had an idea for you to consider that tries to respond to Councilmember Harrington's thought. And again, if you were inclined to go for the 3-year contract, which is what we recommend primarily for the reason that Councilmember Felder stated about being able to plan, you could also direct that within year 1, the city moved to a percentage-based payment that resulted in funds not less than what has been allocated for that year. And that way, I don't think you'd have any discomfort from the partners that they weren't going to get something less.
That's a really good suggestion, like the floor, but then
Right.
it can go up.
Right.
Yeah. Because I really think if you're running an organization, it is very nice that the city would give you $25,000, but how helpful that is, it's less and less helpful as we experience this inflation. So it would be good to have it tied to regular increases.
And sorry.
Excuse me, but from experience over at Vintage House, every little bit helps. And
No.
it's amazing how many things that are 10,000 or 20,000 add up to something that really helps you out.
I think it's very helpful, but what I'm saying is that if the city really wanted to help their partners, it would be a higher amount
Yes.
each year.
Yes.
So not that it's de minimis and insignificant, but that given the scope of operations that we are partnering on, we might want to consider giving more money.
Well, I like the idea of a floor and then perhaps increasing.
I want to interrupt you, I just, because I know Jeff is texting me, Jeff Walter. Vice Mayor Ding and Councilmember Felder need to state their interest in some of these items before you talk about them. Both council members have been cleared to vote on them because of their interest, but you need to state that, please.
Okay, so I will state, as a matter of the record, I am on the board of directors at the Vintage House.
I'm the board member for Sonoma Overnight Support, that is a nonprofit organization. I serve the board member and the treasurer. And on April 21st, and the California and FPPC and sent me the formal letter. They made an investigation, said I don't have any financial interest with the SOS. I can make any and the decision on any issue and the financial issue transactions between the city and the SOS. Thank you.
So are we discussing these right
Yeah.
now?
You can now, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, I'll let others go first because I do have an issue.
Can I just ask a quick process question? So once we have kind of gone through all this, then we'll make a motion, but we're not going to go revisit these sections again. That's our plan, correct?
No, we're not, no.
Right. Okay. I was just going to say, from my perspective, Chief Baker, we really appreciate you being here, but I don't think we're going to discuss the fire department again. I don't think so. Are we? In case you felt like you had other things to attend to, I don't think we're going to talk about the fire department again. Appreciate that.
All right. I guess my question is, and I wasn't here obviously when this was these original amounts were determined, but like, why 55,000 the Boys and Girls Club? Why 40 to the community center? Why 25 to the ecology center? Why 40 to the Vintage House? Like maybe you were on the board back then. Why was it 40 at that time?
What was done was they went through and took a look at historically what was given.
Right.
And essentially took an average or tried to increase it a little bit, but it was based on the historical average.
So it's not a percentage of the nonprofit's budget?
No,
Like,
absolutely not.
so why, I guess, why wouldn't, I mean, I understand looking back, but moving forward, why wouldn't we fund them all equally?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because initially we only funded the big three or the four.
Four.
The big, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, then it was like, you know what, other people are doing just as good work in other nonprofits. And I attended a meeting a long, long time ago. I won't mention the person's name, but they said, we love the nonprofits. We could never do it for that money, that amount of money. So we actually in some way awarded those big four, what was it, the Boys and Girls Club, Vintage House,
Community Center and the Ecology Center.
So those were the four that were awarded. But as it evolved, there were other things that we wanted to move. And I think we changed it from just that big four. And I think as it evolved, Amy, I think you brought up the percentage. And so these things changed. And they always had the highest amount because they were the group that was always recognized as the big four. So anything that's come after it is just very different. And it's interesting, I don't know, I'm sure you're aware, but the 13,500 county transit is really our buy-in for the free buses.
Right.
So, and free passes for homeless. But I hope that helped to explain it. But they started out and they grew every year and they came in here, competed for it. And we just thought, you know what, they're all vital, important organizations. So we wanted to add those others to that group. And, but I guess for me, even though it's a 3-year contract, I would really like a presentation, and possibly there is one every year, to see what their outcomes are. I don't know if we do that, but it may be done anyway.
I think we do that.
I thought we have done that.
Well, I just want to be reminded of that, but I think it's something that should be done.
Between the big four, it adds up to $160,000. 55, 40, 40, and 25, and I would prefer just to do 40 to each, which is obviously a reduction to the Boys and Girls Club, but it just doesn't seem like we would, and a big increase to the Ecology Center, but I just don't understand why we wouldn't just give an equal amount and treat them all equally, unless there was a specific reason why the Boys and Girls Club needed more.
So I think there's, for the Vintage House, one of the thoughts that I had heard, and perhaps Councilmember Felder can address this, is they have, I think, a $6 million endowment. Is that right? Don't you have a multi-million-dollar endowment?
Yes, it's actually grown a bit.
Yeah, okay. So they have a multi-million-dollar endowment, so I think that was always part of the thought, was that we want to support them, and we obviously have given them the land, but that they also have a pretty robust endowment. And then the thought on the Ecology Center, the Ecology Center has the use of the land there, of course, for their program, and they also run a variety of programs which generate income for the Ecology Center out of that space. So they do contract to do, I know they contracted to do a variety of environmental, like not even that, but like environmental remediation for people whose houses burned down, and they did a bunch of work which was compensated. I don't know if it was by insurance companies or by FEMA, but they did a lot of that work, and the plants that they grow and their supplies and all of their place of business for that work, which is all nonprofit, is at the Ecology Center. So I think that was another consideration, that they have the space, it's open to the public, but it's also used to support the nonprofit and other ventures that they do that generate income. And then on the community center, I can't remember why it's that amount, but I think there was a partial thought about the fact that they got the last redevelopment money, and that I think we're still paying that off. And then on the Boys and Girls Club, obviously that's a core service for parents. I don't know how much it is now, but when my kids were little, it was like $100 a year, which is basically free childcare. And they have a bus from Presswood to the Boys and Girls Club, and it's just for a lot of parents a critical component to them being able to go to work. So I think that's why it was funded higher, slightly higher than
And
it was.
they don't have the benefit of a huge endowment, do they?
They do not. So anyway, I think that is and then the Field of Dreams we added relatively recently, which you remember because they were doing it all volunteer and they really needed help. So I think and then of course the Fair Free, Madeline's passion project, which has been so wildly successful. That's that. Anyway, that is my historical recollection of the funding.
I appreciate that. That actually makes sense.
Council Barnett, can I talk about overnight support, homeless,
Of course.
funding? Yes.
I'm not
That
ready.
you can see very limited. That is my good topic, and also I have been always advocate for this program. And you can see we provide a very, very limited money to SOS. Why I always focus on the fundraising. So each dollar with the SOS, that is we relying on grant writing. So that the money, and out of the town, out of the, the bay, we find the money. So to compare homeless issue in we are not in big city, Oakland, in San Francisco. San Francisco spend total $300 million for homeless issue. But we just only spend several the less than $100,000. Look at our budget right now. So in the future, I'm not sure yet. The ability for SOS how to raising the money, I doubt, because right now Kathy King is working hard, and sometimes she got the money because the people know her, and then so that also this is a really good question. Yeah, so in the future, I think in the city would thinking increase those kind of expenses because too little. I have the calculation, and we send the money to SOS each, and the residents in the city just made a contribution $5, and San Francisco each resident made $500 to the homeless issue. So and even right now we look at the Haven, the shelter, almost no use because a lot of restrictions, but homeless issue still is available. So I take this chance, just say, and in the future, if the SOS lost the inability to raise the money, our city will get support in some way.
I actually have a question about SOS. Is that in this? We have a contract. Is it 35,000?
37. Yeah.
37.
37.
Is
Yeah,
that
based on the last year's. Yeah.
Is that in this section?
In the budget. Yeah. In the
no,
budget.
but is it in?
Yeah,
This?
I saw that.
Because I didn't see it in the line item.
What a page.
Okay.
Let me see. I forgot. I saw that the number. Maybe.
So in the budget, and we'll try to pinpoint where there's actually, I talked with Kathy. Kathy asked specifically for 30,000 in operations.
Yes.
And 75 in capital. So that is in the budget, and I think it may just be.
It is. It's actually in non-departmental budget. It's under.
Okay, that's where it is.
Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't see it in here.
Yeah.
I did notice that in the line item for this section, and before we move on from the contracts and everything, I'm totally supportive of the Big Four. And I'm actually even happy, I would be open to raising the amount we give to them. It was just I wanted to know why they were different and why the Boys and Girls Club would get. But I think Councilwoman Harrington gave a excellent explanation. So I just wanted to explain that.
In the beginning, they competed with each other.
Yeah.
They would make presentations here, and they even worked in conjunction to share the revenue.
Right.
So I mean, I think it's evolved in a lot of ways.
Yeah. No, I agree. When it comes to the farmer's market is in here. We spend about $30,000 a year on the farmer's market. I assume we get revenue. So is that like a break even or?
It's not quite break even.
But close.
But they're hoping to get to that.
Right.
Especially as it's ramped up. I mean, we were kind of counting on it not coming back to normal
Right.
at the end of the summer. So, yeah, it will make more money.
And then the Sebastiani Theater, I know we have a contract. Is that we, spend this year, we're going to spend $93,000 on the Sebastiani Theater. Do we get any of their revenue, or is that just to subsidize? We just subsidize it. Okay.
But we basically have, obviously we're leasing it ourselves, but they are responsible for all the maintenance improvements in ADA, and so they're working on upgrading the building.
Okay.
And that's their foundation, is that right?
What about events? Where is that in the budget?
Like the Vintage Festival?
Well, I was
4th
just
of
thinking
July?
about, I was just looking at the council's discretionary community
Yeah.
fund program, and I was thinking about the city party.
Oh, right, City Party's in here.
Okay.
Are we going to have that this year?
Yes.
We didn't put the full robust amount in there for a
Right.
full robust party, but, that's up to
I
you.
agree.
But there is some funds in there, and actually Lisa, she kind of figuring if it was gonna be a scaled down activity, she put funds in there, so that, she did ask that question about if, we're gonna make it a full party.
Where is that?
It's in the,
It's in the line item here.
yeah,
No, but what page is it?
it's
not
on.
on-
Oh, it's not on it.
was-
But is
she
it?
sent us in the email.
It's in community activities?
Yes. And
Okay,
can-
I mean, I would say do the full thing, because San Francisco just had the Stern
agree.
Grove Festival, it was 3,000 people.
Yeah, we should ramp it up.
I mean, gosh, if ever there was a time when the city needed a party.
I
agree.
already have the songs picked out. The cheerleaders from the high school are gonna do it. And, the other song is from, I think there's two things, I'm sorry. I already have it planned in my head.
Tupac?
No Tupac. I
Okay.
think it's, Justin Timberlake and, Pink. Let's get this party started. That'll kick it up, right?
What is the cost for the full event? Or full scale?
We've budgeted 5,700 for the limited, so.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
paper cups of water.
And I don't know what the full cost of it. I think that we have budgeted, actually I could look, we didn't budget it last year, so
Yeah.
I can't look back. We'll get it.
Yeah, give us a minute, we'll text Lisa.
Yeah.
And then just this is a small thing, but we pay almost $5,000 a year for the crossing guard at the high school. And I'm just curious why. I mean, the school district has their own fund, I mean.
Most cities always pay for crossing guards. It's part of
Really?
the,
That's
part of the
just
deal.
practice?
The
Okay.
school districts say it's not our, once the kids are
Really?
off the, yeah.
Interesting, okay. Well, pedestrian safety on Broadway is important, so.
I don't know if you're about to leave this, but was there a consensus on the council to do what's recommended? It sounds like plus the net increase towards the city party, whatever that net increment would be. And then are you comfortable with the 3-year contracts and/or moving to a percentage-based system with today's amount as a floor?
I think you should definitely do that. I mean, just think of the increase in cost in everything. It's very obvious there's inflation everywhere and definitely in salaries. And so that's going to be important for them to have the increase, especially if we're taking an increased revenue. It would make sense, since it's a percentage that we're giving out, that they get more as the revenue goes up, I think.
I would be okay with doing this as a 3-year contract as a floor, but I would also be open to rethinking how we do this as a floor, and then we could always renegotiate that contract and increase it in the future. But if that makes any sense. I don't know what the.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Any other questions on this?
No.
All right, non-departmental.
Non-departmental.
Obviously, the big ticket item is a cloud-based permitting, budgeting, and accounting software. $300,000.
And you guys talked about this fairly thoughtfully yesterday about, well, should the money just stay in reserves, or I think it should be budgeted. Obviously, if what happens with city staff is we won't work on something if there isn't an appropriation for it. So it would not be part of the work plan, and we wouldn't go out and do an RFQ or RFP for soliciting the vendors potentially if we didn't at least have it budgeted. So, but if it, you know, if it comes in much higher than that or much lower than that, obviously there's an appropriation add or the Garrett and you folks could decide not to implement that based on what you know.
Why is the, I'm not opposed to it, but why is the rental assistance being transferred back to the general fund back to the housing trust fund from the general fund? Because I think when we spent it, we were thinking we were spending it because it's keeping people housed.
That was a request by council.
Who requested that? We did?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
A couple months ago.
I
Yeah.
don't remember that.
Yeah, you wanted to pay back the housing trust fund.
Yeah, last time you already.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, she did, yeah.
I think you could leave it.
3 times ago, 3 times before the city council, you said you want to do, and next meeting you said,
Well,
I saw that.
I don't want to
Maybe I missed the meeting, I
point
don't
to
know.
Logan, but I think when we had this discussion, one of our preliminary budget discussions, which could have been 3 meetings ago, we raised this issue. And we thought the consensus of the council for the proposed budget was to shift that money back into the housing trust fund. If you
Yes.
don't want to do
Yes.
that, that's what a proposed budget is for, and you could not do that.
I don't think we need to do that because the idea was we had this money for housing, we spent it on housing, we still have to build up our own reserves again, and I would leave it in the general fund and then build up our reserves as opposed to repaying the housing trust fund when we decided that an appropriate use for the housing trust fund was to keep people housed, so.
And also, I saw that is a $20,000 housing fund. What this number, I really don't understand. Should not, and $20,000. And housing trust fund.
I don't see 20, I see 75,000 on page
Councilmember
119.
Ding, are you asking for the fund balance in the housing trust fund, so the bank account?
No, yes, hold on a second. That is the trust fund. Hold on a second. Okay, operation.
So could you, all right, the housing trust fund says,
Yeah, 20.
so what were you
So we had,
offering?
Housing.
we had the money in the trust fund last year, and we decided that we would spend that money on giving it to Fish for rental assistance. Like, we spent our housing trust fund money on keeping people housed. And so then this would say that instead of just saying, oh, we spent that money, like, it's gone, and we'll make it up with more TOT, that we would take money from the general fund and reimburse the housing trust fund. So basically, we would have used general fund dollars to pay for rental assistance. And I just don't know why that's necessary, because we decided to spend the housing trust
Yes.
fund on keeping people
Yeah.
housed. That's the purpose of having the
Yeah,
trust fund.
that is a
like,
long term.
these funds are for housing, and the general fund has all these other purposes, and also we need to rebuild our reserves. I just don't know why it would be necessary to reimburse the trust fund when the purpose of the trust fund is to pay for housing things. I thought,
I
guess I don't
agree.
remember it.
I agree with Councilman
Yeah.
Harrington. I mean, the
I
council,
do too. That's the
Yeah.
right thing
the
to do.
council made a decision
That-
to use the housing trust fund, and I was not on the council at the time, and quite
Yeah.
frankly, I
But
would not have
to
supported
use
that.
the housing
But
trust
that's,
Yeah,
that's
that
the
is.
decision you made.
But, yes,
That is
but it
right.
was the housing trust fund, and we decided to take that money for Fish.
Correct.
Yeah,
But
for
now
fish,
we're,
for
now
rental.
we're
Right now
gonna
it's
take
over.
general fund money and put it back in, but the council decided to use that, the housing trust fund.
That is.
Right.
Yeah,
So
need to
now
pay
we're
back.
gonna,
but why would we, can you turn your mic off?
Yep.
Why would we reimburse the housing trust fund out of general fund dollars? Like, we spent the money. It's like saying we built
Yeah.
new housing and we're gonna reimburse out of the general fund. No, we have the housing trust fund, we spend it on housing things, we spent it, and like, new money comes in all the time because 1% of TOT goes to the housing trust fund. I don't,
I believe at that time, because that at the beginning of the pandemic, the budget, looks like the deficit is too big. So in this way, you said, oh, okay, for the rental assistance, maybe we can take the money from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And then I wasn't in the the city, maybe that is the original.
No, I would say it was my suggestion. I brought up doing it to fish, so
Yes.
like that was my proposal.
It was your
and
proposal, yeah.
So
And-
the proposal was, we have $75,000. We're not going to be able to build anything with $75,000.
No, it's 150.
Or 150.
Right.
We can't do anything like actual right
Yeah.
now, but we can keep all these people housed if we give Fish this money. And so we made this pilot program with them using our TOT dollars for that purpose.
That
But
is-
it was never an idea that it was a loan from the general fund, right? It was just, we have this money for housing. One of the best things we can do with housing is keep people housed. And that was like, so I don't understand why you would reimburse it, because that was the purpose of the trust fund, was to spend it on housing.
So do you want to
I
do a
agree.
straw vote on that?
And
I think the consensus is to take these transfers out.
To the housing trust fund.
And-
Okay,
Yeah, just,
And-
yeah.
got it.
I agree.
And what is more I want to emphasize, and I just read a newspaper and a couple of days ago, our Sonoma counties and the rental assistance fund total is $32 million. Right now, just only 10% people apply to use it. So that means out in the city, lost this chance again. We didn't even apply or.
No, respectfully, Vice Mayor Ding, the city is not a recipient, an eligible recipient of those funds. Just
You need a
individuals.
residence.
Exactly.
Okay.
Residents are, and please know, we've got a number of great groups, from Catalyst to La Luz, to Petaluma People Services, which does stretch into the valley.
Yes.
That is aggressively looking for landlords and tenants that needed this relief.
So that means that, in the future, we also could improve our information education system. Rather than to use the content money, help them how to apply for, and then in the same way can save the other money. No
Yeah.
necessary, right?
Good points. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but one of the problems was people borrowed money from friends and relatives to pay their rent.
Okay.
And those loans are not eligible for this rental assistance money. So these poor folks the one thing they were going to try to keep up on is their rent. They're not eligible, which is what State Senator Dodd and others are trying to change the eligibility for that funding. But
And
that's,
extend
Okay.
and extend the
thank you.
date? Is
and
that-
extend the date of evictions, yeah. I'll stop there. We should keep going.
Yeah. Okay, Juan.
Right, next.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll move on. I just did want to say on the previous section, which we never really finished, I'm very excited about the cloud-based records archive software, and some of these expenses and expenditures look like that will really move the city forward, so I strongly support those. I support what Councilwoman Harrington said about the Housing Trust Fund. Any other comments on that? Moving on. CIP, you want to go through this quickly?
So I guess the whole thing with the CIP is, compared to our 5-year capital improvement program, are these all what are the differences between the capital improvement program that we approved and what is before us today, if any?
Depot Park upgrade, or the depot building, right? Solar and there's a few of those. I can't do it off the top of my head.
Councilmember Harrington, is the question how this varies from last year's CIP looking forward to next year, or how this addresses requests from the council to add things to the CIP?
No, we approved a multi-year CIP plan, right? And so my question is, compared to our plan, how does this vary? Because there was year 1 and year 2 and year 3.
Yeah.
So is this exactly the plan we approved, or is this modified in some way? I know the depot is different, or what is different than the plan we approved, if anything?
Yeah, the plan is reviewed in detail every year. So the council adopts a 5-year CIP. The first year is in the budget. And if that's going to change, it changes by action of the council. The next 4 years are projections for planning purposes. And the next year, we look at what had been budgeted, and if it's appropriate, we just carry that same amount forward into the next year. Sometimes we've made progress on the budget or on the project, we recognize we need more money, or maybe the project's not moving forward, we need less money. So it's not set in stone for 5 years. The first year is real, the 4 years are a projection, and then we look at it each year as we go on. I don't have a detailed, oh, here's what we changed on this project and that project. There's a lot of projects here.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
But Director Ferguson, maybe just highlight what you think are the major things that are different this year, besides just different this year.
Some of the projects that we have enough clarity to know we would need more funding to make sure we can actually deliver them. So we asked for some money to be added this year that wasn't in the projection last year, is the Friar Creek pedestrian bicycle bridge. We are hoping to move that towards construction by the end of the year this year.
And
we
what's
wanna
the
make sure-
additional request for that?
I'd have to get back to you with all those details of exactly how much extra
What
we
page is
asked
that?
for each one.
131.
Okay. Yeah, so we need an addition of 24,000, yeah.
Yeah, some of the big ones that you mentioned already. I mean, one is the Broadway Pedestrian Safety Project, T10, which was inadvertently left out of what you have, and I have the project data sheet from. It's in all the tables, but if you want the detailed project data sheet, I have a copy
And
of
those
that.
are for hawk signals, or no, they're not hawk. They're just enhanced.
Mm-hmm. They're something
What specifically is it? Yeah.
equivalent to a rapid flashing beacon, and something different than what's out there now with the in-road lights. It wouldn't have the in-road lights. It would have very effective flashing lights on both sides and on both sides of the sign.
And that would not arch over the roadway. It would
It
just.
would not arch over
Okay.
the roadway.
Don't. Right?
Here, and here we see estimated project funding is a 2.9 million. That is the 2020 through the 2021 carried over 1.9.
Which one?
Yeah.
Page?
130. So that is your next year, summer of the next year. Is that original and planned, or we postponed because we didn't have enough fund?
I'm sorry, which projects are you
Yeah,
referring to?
because estimated construction 130. You said a summer construction time is a summer 2022 or 2022.
Are we still talking about the Friar
I
Creek
think
Bridge project?
130 is the Chase Street Bridge replacement project.
Is that what you're looking at?
Yes.
The Chase Street Bridge project is all ready to go as soon as the Caltrans tells us the federal funds are available for us to spend on this bridge. That's all we're waiting for.
And we started next year, right? Or,
We start that project when we have the federal
fund
funding to build
already.
it.
Okay.
They just don't have enough money for all the projects that they said, we have federal money, your bridge is eligible for
Yes.
this, we're on the list, and they keep telling us, oh, but not right now.
Do you have roughly what time and
No,
no? What I concern is, recently, labor cost, material cost, increased a lot. Some of the construction company give you the contract that they said, oh, only in 3 months. Some of the companies said just only in 1 month, and then they went and made adjustment. So that is, I wonder if we can timely and know when the money comes, and maybe we can, get earlier, get engagement with construction company. What is construction company, the local one or?
We would put, after we got assurance that the federal funds would be forthcoming, we would put the project out to bid and award it to the lowest bidder.
Oh, okay, yeah, so
So, Mr. Kiff, how are we doing on time in your estimation?
Yeah, it is 8:30 already, so I was hopeful we'll be done soon.
So for item W10, water meter system upgrades, which is $2 million, it says new funding request, $2 million. And then the source of that is the water fund. I guess we have $2 million available now in the water fund for that.
When that project's ready to go forward, we'll work with finance and see if we need to actually finance the project or if we can cash flow the project. But that's the, advanced metering infrastructure that we talked about a bit.
No, I know what it is, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm clear on it. I think my question is, it says new funding request, and the funding request is $2 million, and I want to know, are there $2 million in the water fund which could be allocated to that?
Not now, no, and actually the water rate study did, when we talked about that project as one of our projects and they did say that we needed to go out for
Right,
financing.
that's what I remembered. Yeah.
For part of the financing, but when that project comes up, and then we would go out for financing.
So
and
you
so I'm
would
not
budget
really-
an amount that we don't have on hand and we don't have the finance. What is the purpose of budgeting an amount we don't have on hand and we don't have financing secured for?
Because it allows us to work on it. If we don't have any approval by you at all to work on it, we won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is a very worthwhile project for the.
I'm
water
not
fund.
questioning the
Yeah,
project. I'm
yeah,
trying to
and
understand the
that's-
accounting.
Yeah, so that is the accounting for it, so.
The Plaza Park Enhancement Project, the receptacles, et cetera, is that ready to go?
No, not yet.
So we're not requesting any new funding, so is it fully funded? It's just not ready, or?
The details of the project will be worked out to match the funds available. And this is the Prop 68 funding
Right.
that will,
Do you anticipate any progress on that in this fiscal year?
yes.
Okay. So we'll have new receptacles in the year?
Oh, I'm not saying we'll have construction, we'll have progress, we'll have a plan.
Okay. All right, thank you. It would be great if we could get moving on that. Those blue recycle bins.
I know that's why Director Ferguson has talked a lot about her staffing and her ability to pull in, fill existing positions. It's been a different time. The pandemic's really been affecting everybody in terms of that staffing.
Right.
And we are getting there.
Great.
So for
Hi.
benefit of council members, when you're addressing an issue, would you actually state the page so people can follow along?
159.
And also, I will bother you again. That is in the sidewalk, T-4. Do you think that is enough? The total is in the 60,000.
is that?
Oh, page 133,
Okay.
sidewalk. And as we discussed yesterday, maybe we needed to send in the mails and flyers, let the homeowners know that is their responsibility.
Correct. The amount requested in the CIP budget is comparable to what we've had in prior years to continue our annual sidewalk inspection and repair program. And the property owners are notified if their sidewalk is beyond the minor repair that the contractor can do under that contract. And then we do follow up with the property owner to have the sidewalks fully repaired.
I was wondering if the homeowner is able to afford this kind of a cost and they don't want to get any trouble, maybe they will do that. But some homeowner in that area, I don't think they cannot, afford for this kind of fix. But, I really don't know if any idea or any suggestions.
That sounds like a broader topic beyond this budget discussion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have just a general question. If the sidewalk it needs repair, for the homeowner to make that repair, and it's a city tree that caused it, is it still his liability?
The trees in front of the properties are generally considered the property owner's responsibility as well. We don't consider them city trees. There's one exception to that along Broadway where a community group planted trees with city authority. Other than that, the trees are generally considered the property owner's responsibility to repair the sidewalk damaged by those trees.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
you know, it's interesting, having run for city council twice, York Street at the corner, this woman had to repair I don't know, 80 feet. And she said, I never even wanted these trees. So, I mean, there's a lot of well, you know, you've probably heard it all. And, the state government, of course, protects us for these things. And the shaving programs seem to, hold off on actually the expense of the resident. So, I mean, it's a difficult, it's sort of like a difficult situation. Thanks.
And also here you mentioned the repair. That means very minor repair, right? Because
Correct. The sidewalks are generally 4 inches thick. And so
4
if
inches.
it's raised 2 inches by a tree root and we'd have to cut the whole thing off to make it flat, there's only 2 inches left. That would break up over time. So the minor repairs are, I forget the exact dimension, but it's less than 2 inches of raise that they can cut off safely.
good to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any objections to the capital improvement program.
Nor do I.
No, I'm fine.
Any other comments on
Sorry.
CIP? All right.
And Jack?
Yes, yeah, only one thing I want to mention. If any, project any urgent, we needed to, start it immediately, I think that we can think. Because right now, everything, and the cost for the construction is increasing. And if we can do a little bit earlier, that means save them money. And one stitch in time, save lives. Yeah, so if any urgent, project, maybe we can consider. Otherwise, we cannot. But anyway, that is maybe out of the budget.
All right. Any other comments on the rest of the binder? I don't think we have to go through those individually.
I just wanted to make a comment about the city party. In 1920, we spent $30,000, so we have,
In 1920?
1920.
Oh, okay. No,
I heard it that way.
I know. I
I'm
was
sorry, fiscal year 1920.
Okay.
Way
I
back
know.
then.
Yeah. Wasn't that during Prohibition? Yeah. All right.
So we have 5,700 in right now, so we would
Oh,
need to add additional 24,300. We did get some donations for the party, but I didn't include that in there. I think we just.
I'm fine with that.
personally going to go after donations because I really want this, hopefully, we all want this to be a huge success.
Yeah, so I think we'll go ahead and put the 30,000 in though.
Yes,
So,
please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So can we make a motion to adopt the budget with all the changes, or how do you do it?
Let me go through you guys resolved almost all the issues we had. I'm going to ask for straw votes on a couple that I don't know that we nailed down. Councilmember Harrington talked yesterday about adding a housing contractor position, and the proposed amount was $30,000. That would only be spent if a person was available to monitor and help enforce our affordable housing rules. Is that a straw vote, yes?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Landscaping of the plaza, I think you did land on putting that in the parks budget at an amount of $30,000, additional landscaping in the plaza. I don't know that you took a vote on it, but.
Yeah, I would just say not maybe for this moment in time, but as people know, Dave Shavoya used to be the gardener on the plaza, and he took care of it like it was his own backyard, and very dedicated and had the time to do it. It would be really nice to get back to a time when we could have somebody dedicated just to the plaza. Obviously we can't do it now because of all the demands on our staff, but that would be ideal if we could get back to having somebody who their main beat was the plaza.
So I know that Anthony Navarro is new to
That's right,
this,
maybe he could be that person.
and he comes with great experience, and that I mean, that park is like Times Square.
Okay, so that
So,
amount should
I'm
be
good.
in.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then the next one, we do want to put the election back in. Councilmember Harrington talked about potentially a ballot measure, which would bring it about to 50. A standard election standard to replace Councilmember Harrington was up to 39. So
I
the
don't think we'll be ready for our ballot measure.
Okay, so what I would recommend then is putting in up to, 39,000, and obviously we don't spend it all. Is that a thumbs up on
Yes.
that one? Okay. We talked about a compensation study. It's my recommendation that for management that go in the amount of $5,000. If that would be an amendment to the budget. Sorry, this
Yes.
is the one that,
Yeah, yesterday I,
right.
suggest.
Management salary study.
Oh, okay.
That's the only way that those can be reset.
Yes.
The best way to reset them.
Yes.
Okay. Let me go through my notes.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is the valley-wide governance request for $30,000 in this budget? It is?
Yeah, I put it on the proposed budget.
Okay.
Just so everyone knows what that is, that's a discussion with the county, maybe our share with the county, and then Catalyst may donate another share to look at what's the best governance model for the whole valley. Just so it doesn't presuppose anything, it gives recommendations and a dialogue for jumping off.
I support that.
Okay. The last one, Mayor Agrimonti and Councilmember Barnett mentioned our federal lobbyist. I'm realizing we did not allocate that unless it's in our natural services. This is the one we share with, with all, the other cities all agreed they wanted to do it again, and our share is about $8,000.
That's not in there.
It's not in the budget.
No.
So I would recommend adding 8,000 for that purpose. This is with MMO partners. I use them. We use them to make sure we're securing the ARPA funds correctly and all those things. I do think it's been a value, but I forgot to put that in the budget. Okay. All right. With that, the motion then would be, unless
Oh,
there's
and
any
also
other.
the .4 in the.
Oh, I got that already. Sorry. That's in. The other things that are in are the 3-year community partner contracts, but percentage-based adjustment, not less than the current apportionment. The .4 position in the city council's budget. My notes say annual presentations by the Big Four community partners, so that would be a minute order. City party of additional 24,000. 24.3 thousand. Undo of the transfer of the general fund to the housing trust fund. Anything I missed, Sue?
So I just have a question about the .4. We're taking an existing position and putting .4 of that, or is it an?
It's of the 1.0 in the city manager's office assistant.
Right, so we would just allocate that salary to the city manager.
And the
So that's
City
not
council.
Yeah.
right. I think we're all clear on, sorry, Vice Mayor Ding.
I just only have the one. Just make it sure. And I just mentioned about the grant writing, this kind of budget. What is the reasonable amount? Can we include it in the finance department, or we need additional on the budget?
Let me make a recommendation on the fly. You could add, say, $10,000 and ask Garrett to, when Garrett arrives, to discuss that. If he doesn't spend it, obviously it goes into fund balance, but that would be available to him for a grant writer. That
Right,
would
and
be-
it's interesting because he, as I remember in the interview, said, I like to find out what other cities are doing. And I think he mentioned that, so thank you, I appreciate it.
Sounds great. I'm
All
happy
right,
to add
that's
it.
great.
Do we have
Thank you.
do we have a rough estimate of what we've added tonight?
We've added back 75.
Yeah,
and
right.
And then we spent 30.
Yeah. What's the wash?
Let us do that for just a second here. I'll do it fast too. 30 plus 30 plus 39 plus 5 plus We added in approximately 138, and then we took out 75, so our net add is about 63.
We've just added 63.
Oh, sorry, and the grant writer, so 73.
73.
Okay,
That's our net.
that's reasonable. Okay, thank you very much for
So I
that.
just have three little questions, I'm sorry, to make sure that okay, the EV charging, that $20,000, when did that? end up?
That is in the proposed budget.
Okay, thank you. And then SOS 75,000 for,
That is in the proposed budget for capital needs.
okay.
And-
I ain't done. The parklets, the cost, I know we, like around 100,000, I think it was what we put in. So are we reimbursing people for expenditures for that as well?
But generally, that program ended. But that's what we did, yes.
But that's money.
Throughout the current year, the year that's about to expire, we spent about $100,000 assisting people in developing their parklets.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was that.
And that's not proposed to continue, because there doesn't see the
Okay,
same need.
thank you. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss that. Thank you so much.
And the 75 for the Haven improvement, that's not to SOS, that's improving our building, right?
So, sorry, this is budgeted in this manner, to be very clear. It is 75,000 for Sonoma overnight support services for a facility. It does not say it needs to be in the Haven House.
I thought we were improving the Haven.
That was the
or like-
initial proposal. They changed their request because they're interested in looking at other sites. Well, yeah, I don't mean to be too defensive about it. They came to me and said, you know what, we're going to look for another place. And therefore, and to get to our other place, wherever that might be, we think we need at least a capital campaign to match an existing capital campaign that I think Vice Mayor Ding is aware of. So the concept is 75 and 75 gets them a place where they could invest in a commercial kitchen and tenant improvements that would allow them to move from the Haven House.
I think it would be, well, you tell me, because I don't know. We haven't in the city of Sonoma given somebody money and said, go buy your own place and you own it free and we don't have anything with it. We have land that we lease to people and they've been, constructed buildings on it, but we've never just given somebody money to buy a facility for their enterprise, whatever the right words are. I don't think, is that normal? Seems unusual.
What is the county contributing?
I don't know that they've applied, because the county typically would say, what do you got now? And in other words, do you have a place secured? Mm-hmm. They don't have a place secured. So I would expect them to come to the county for some assistance, but they
Why is that not our policy?
I think just because of the unique role that SOS plays is that without them and how they provide meals and what they provide in terms of overnight services, we don't have a homelessness program. And another city that would have a similar vendor like SOS, but yeah, I think I'm thinking more of Councilmember Harrington's question. Is this uncommon? It's not uncommon to pledge it and then follow up with a requirement that it be used for X, Y, and Z and for a certain duration. In effect, we're kind of acting like the county would do and say, you have this, once you build X with it, you've got to maintain those operations for 10 years at that site. That would not be an uncommon thing for a grantor to do. Is it uncommon for the city? Possibly, but this is a weird world.
I didn't mean this city, I just meant like
Okay.
in government practice.
Certainly not at all weird in terms of how homelessness services are funded.
But by putting it in the budget, does that mean that it's just theirs and they get it, or do they have to come, it's available?
Exactly. No, sorry. They would have to come to you, to the council, and to Garrett, and say, here's what we propose to do for this money, and here's how we propose to match it. And
Why is it a capital improvement?
because their goal is to move to a facility that is more central to all of their operations. They serve meals in the Springs right now at the community hall. So they would like to be closer to that facility. So, and they're not even sure how long they'll stay in the hall, but something that would allow them a more permanent home to do all of their services in a centralized location.
I think
Do I
it's fine as
understand?
long as the proposal has to come back to the council for approval. It's not allocating the funds. It's just saying we're gonna set the funds aside and they can come to us with a proposal, and if we like it, we'll approve it. If we don't, we won't.
I'm fine with what
And,
Councilman
and
Harrington has
let's
described.
memorialize that just as in the motion, and that's terrific, yeah. I think I'm cutting up.
That seems like we're all okay with that. Okay, thank you for explaining.
Okay, how does the motion have to
So the
be?
motion would be, someone would move to adopt the proposed budget as amended by the comments made, you could say by the city manager, that reflected what was in and what was out. And we could go through them one more time if you wanted, but I think Rebecca is pretty clear. I have my notes too.
And can we just say so moved, or we have to actually say that?
You could just say, I move what the city manager just said.
I move what the city manager just said.
That's great.
And can we move on a second from anybody who they say it?
I second.
Thank you. And could I have a roll call, please? We're throwing our voices to the city managers. Thank you.
Councilmember, Councilmember Barnett,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Felder,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Agrimonti.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
We have more items.
I know I'm gonna kill it. Can
we
we take a 5-minute break?
Good idea. Good idea. Ron? Welcome. Are you here?
We think we need to make sure the second resolution was adopted in the budget action.
Do we need to change it, based on the floor percentage thing?
Let's make that by minute order, yes. If you want to offer that, you could.
Okay.
So
We are on 4.1, item 2 of 4.1.
so this is what you're discussing, the resolution?
And the recommended action, if you choose to accept it, I think would be to adopt the resolution with the clarifying statement that within year one, they would move to a percentage-based formula not less than the current apportionment for years 2 and 3.
Great.
Okay, so that needs our motion?
Public comment.
Oh, God, who's here? Where is
I
it?
think you're safe on public comment because that item was all
There's no one
one.
on Zoom?
Oh, great.
Okay. So
Um,
I'm looking for.
motion
Do
to
what he said.
do what the city manager just recommended.
And I need a second.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barnett,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Felder,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Agrimonti.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Then the next item, Madam Mayor, is item 4.2. This is now a public hearing for the fee schedule associated with the changes made to the budget. And we're happy to do a presentation if you'd like, but, so if you approve this recommended action, it would be the fee schedule, including the changes that were just made to the budget 15 minutes ago.
Okay, well, I would,
I
Look for-
personally don't need a presentation.
I am assuming that this is based on cost recovery, and it was 100% for this time. Under the planning fees, I think there's something that's totally remiss from what came out of the ad hoc committee, and I thought, just based on some conversations, that it's actually come through city council. It's talking about an increase of 2,000% on an appeal.
What item is what?
It's under planning, and it's item,
PL 18.
PL 18, yeah.
Yes, I can actually speak to that. Can you hear
Jenna
me?
Burrows, our Deputy Finance Director, she's the one who she was going to present the item, and so now she's on Zoom, so
Yeah.
she'll answer that
Hi.
question.
Good evening. So I can speak to that. David Storer brought that to my attention, that on May 17th, the council actually adopted Resolution 32-2021. And that resolution included these fees at a much lower rate. And so that was for residents within the boundary of the Sonoma School District. The major permit appeal fees were $1,000 and $2,500 for non-residents. And then the minor permits appeal fee is $500 for both residents within the boundary of the district and non-residents. So when I was going to present on this, I was going to mention that and just confirm that those are the rates that will be maintained and that this would be approved, assuming that would be changed to what was approved in Resolution 32-2021.
thank you,
Great.
that's much more appealing than an
Yeah.
$8,000 appeal fee that nobody in the city is going to be able to afford.
Did you say that's much more appealing?
No.
You did.
Yes, I did. I had one other question. In terms of fees, there's areas where it talks about major and minor, or small and large, and where are these terms defined? In other words, how do we decide whether something is a major action or a minor action, like in a use permit?
That was part of the discussion. David Storer had a whole list of what was a major permit and a minor permit.
Yeah, but is that codified somewhere in the approval of these fees as to what constitutes a major and a minor fee?
Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor, Council, David here. Yeah, in the fee schedule that we created, there's a list of each one of them. So under major permits, Councilmember Felder, there's a list basically starting from large subdivisions to use permits, EIRs and things of that nature. And then you'll see under minor permits, you'll see things like a temporary use permit for a carnival or something of that nature, something that requires less environmental review.
Okay, I just didn't have that definition, or that level of definition in what I've been given, so, thank you.
With that, unless there are any other questions, the staff recommendation is to adopt the fee schedule with the amendment that Deputy Director Burrows mentioned regarding your previous resolution.
Thank you. We're looking for a motion. I'm looking for a motion.
Do we do public comment? Okay.
Is there anyone who would like? I'm opening it for public comment. I see no one rise. Is there anyone from the Zoom?
No, but I do have a written comment.
Oh, that's right. Oh, all right.
This is from David Eicher. Council members, item BL-42, non-residential affordable housing impact fee, says assessed per City Council Resolution 12-2020. Per that resolution, Section 7, annual adjustment, the Finance Director is authorized and directed to adjust the fees set forth in Exhibit A not later than July 1st of each year based on the percentage change, if any, in construction cost as measured by the Engineering News Record McGraw-Hill Construction Weekly Building Cost Index for San Francisco. Has the fee been adjusted per the above, and if so, what is the current rate? Thank you, David Eicher. And that's all I have.
And is Mr. Ike, who is David Storer around on?
Yeah,
I can answer that.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
I had
okay.
something in front of you.
So I actually responded to Mr. Eicher today, and we did adjust the fee in accordance with that resolution, and I can actually pull that up real quick and let you know what those updated rates are. And I did email these to him just so he had them. So for office type buildings, the fee is $4.33. It used to be $4. For retail, it's $4.33, and it used to be $4. And for hotels, it's $15, or sorry, it's $16.24, and it used to be $15.
Thank you. All right, here we go. I'm closing public comment. I think I'm back to looking for a motion from anyone for what Mr. Kiff said, shared.
I feel like Councilmember Felder is the most familiar with these materials at this moment.
I'll make a motion to accept the fee schedule and adopt a resolution based on the 2021-22 operating budget as amended by the discussion tonight.
Second.
I second. Oh, okay.
Oh, roll call, please.
Councilmember Barnett.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Felder.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Agrimonti.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries
Thank you,
unanimously.
everybody. This was a pipe dream, actually, and now I know it's a reality. Thank you.
Which was the fees?
The fees.
Your next item, Madam Mayor, would be item 5.5, which is discussion and direction of the quarterly agenda. And I don't know, maybe Sue or Rebecca, you help me share a screen. We'll share a screen. I'm just going to share two screens. One is kind of where we've been the last quarter, and the other is to have you look at where we are proposing to go for the next quarter, and have you either add things or make comments, because I think as Councilmember Harrington set forth this process, it's helpful in that regard. Yeah, if we just click on the packet. Just give us a second here. All right, I surprised you with that one.
Are you speaking of attachments A and B?
That's correct. Yeah, I know if you can call them up on your own computers, but Rebecca's going to get that on the
Just for anybody watching, I'm looking at the agenda on my phone. I'm not looking at my phone.
Yeah. And again, hopefully in August, this will be easier because we should have the system set up where it's a little easier to share from this attachment A and B, these ones here.
Right, do you want me to do all of it? I'll just put them up on mine and scroll through.
That sounds good.
Because otherwise we'll just try and change.
Yeah. So scroll down a little bit or advance to that first one there, past quarter. So hopefully you can see that and hold there. Past quarter, I'm not going to go through each one of these, but this is kind of where we were and where we've been. Any questions or comments about that part?
For the one that's updating the cemetery report continued to August 16th, what does that one mean?
So we did just talk about that, and I mentioned to Councilmember Barnett that I reached out to the vendor that did the 2005 cemetery report, and they still exist. They're still down south. I think they may even still have the same person, although that's doubtful. But I asked them for a proposal to update that report for us, and then we do have $30,000 in the budget to potentially do that. So on the 16th, that could be, I don't know that the report would be updated by then. I would doubt it, but at least you could have a discussion about where you want to head with whatever the report says.
Shouldn't we have the report done first?
I would.
Yeah.
I didn't want to punt it too far.
Right.
A goal is something to strive for. So we'll see.
Have they gotten back to you about the cost of that?
Oddly not. I tried to get to them today again, and I didn't.
Okay.
Didn't get to it.
I'm really, well, Kelso, obviously you're very interested in and I am as well. And I've reached out to my old colleagues from Colma. So we actually do have a gentleman who retired here. He ran the Jewish cemetery. He's absolutely interested in helping us. And I reached out to the person who runs Olivet and Cypress Lawn. They are huge cemeteries. And she's willing to come up here to just share some details so we can actually know the right questions to ask. So, I'm really looking forward to this, getting some information from all those true sources of the people who actually manage. I have someone who actually manages veterans cemeteries, so we might be able to bring that person up also. So, I'm really looking forward to this, of learning so much. So I just think it's exciting. So possibly, Kelso, we can get this together before.
Yeah. I mean, I just think we should have in a perfect world, we would have the report done before we have the initial discussion.
Right.
Updated.
I'll follow up as best I can here these next couple of days and see what we can do.
Yeah.
You did put money in the budget for it, so I could authorize that as I go.
And I think in question is that $49,000.
Right, I mean, it's
It's sitting.
It's waiting to be spent.
But I think it needs some kind of interpretation by the city attorney.
Yeah, and I agree, I didn't agree. So, yeah, we should definitely get that.
Yeah.
But I do think it should be used for the cemetery regardless of.
It has to be used in the cemetery, but it doesn't say what, and it says maintenance is an acceptable purpose. That's my recollection.
So anything else that you might want to see on here, especially in August and September?
What's B?
What's B?
Is there attachment B?
Attachment B is just a summary of the, summary of the council initiatives that you guys have had at least this year and next. You do need to set, the council does need to have a kind of a goal-setting session with Garrett when Garrett arrives.
Yes. Can we see page 2 of attachment A, moving forward?
Oh, I didn't, okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
this
Rebecca.
one.
I wasn't queuing, yeah. So, David Storer already on the discussion item for August 2nd. I think what he would like to agendize is a discussion about setting that date, to have a joint meeting with the council and the planning commission. So that is not literally the date of the possible joint meeting.
How soon do you think he plans to have that? Because in terms of just updating, like from our ad hoc committee and just, you know, it's really important we move forward on updating our development code with objective standards, and as that's part of the housing element, and then kicking it off with.
I think we mentioned August 25th, which is I think a planning commission night, that you would have a council meeting coterminous with that. Am I remembering that?
That's pretty late in the month for planning commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
David, are you still on? David?
Yes, sir.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, that would, Councilmember Barnett is correct. It'd be after the 12th of August, I believe it is. It'd be about a week or so after that, maybe 10 days after that, and offset against the second council meeting in that same month.
Okay.
But either way, I think the plan was to have you discuss that when you get back on August 22nd as to setting the bones of that up.
Okay.
Can I see B again? Please.
The initiatives?
Yeah, on
Okay.
the minimum wage, my recollection is that we amended it to get rid of the benefit option, and that the only thing that was outstanding was what CPI we were going to use, but that didn't come into play until multiple years in the future. But I don't think that's a thing anymore.
So we can strike that off. Okay.
I've got a question. Do we need to change the makeup of the ad hoc committee, the one that was working on development code and general plan update
We
to replace
do.
Logan?
We do, and actually that's planned for Monday the 2nd.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of changes, including Councilmember Felder's arrival. We're bringing that agenda item to you. We just decided that this afternoon. That will be on August 2nd.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Not just ad hoc, but his
A bunch of
replacement.
them. Yeah.
And then
Councilmember Harrington's too, potentially, if you need to fill spaces.
Well, somebody also is going to have to be on Sonoma Clean Power.
Go ahead.
Councilwoman Harrington's on where? On the planning commission?
No.
There's several different things that we're talking about here.
Oh, okay.
You've got the council appointments, which are your appointments to the commissions, your individual appointments, which are like your Mayor Agrimonti's appointment to the planning commission, Amy's, all of those pieces need to be filled. We have the traffic safety, there are several there.
I have a traffic.
Then you have the committees that you each sit on your regional boards, like the Clean Power, those different ones that you guys need to look at again, which this will be, I think, the third time this
I
year.
was going to say, we've
or
done this
fourth
quite a
time.
bit.
I don't think
lately.
you're not going to look at the commissioners. Oh, because you said if the person is elected, then they pick new commissioners?
No.
Well, no, because
Well,
The
we
mayor
have-
has to
we have
replace
the,
Mr. Felder.
We had a
Council.
precedent
Yeah,
when
just one.
Commissioner
But we also.
But I'm saying about
Barnett
the one-
became
about-
council member Barnett, that Rachel Hundley's appointment was to carry to the end of the term. And
Yeah,
I would
no.
assume it would be
Yeah.
the same
It
thing
was
for
just-
Councilwoman?
You can call me Amy. That's fine.
It is. It's
Amy.
Yeah,
it
it would
is
be.
like it's the
Yeah.
So
different
the only one
appointments.
that's really up is Mayor
Yes,
Agrimonti's
yours, yeah.
selection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I have to appoint a traffic safety commissioner. Yeah.
So those are there's a couple different things that you have to, and then also we have to look at the ad hoc committees that each of you sit on that are local ad hoc committees, which are the, like, the one that keeps sticking in my brain, I don't even know if it's a thing, where's the memorial bench, those pieces. So there's 3 different ones that I think we get, like, the language confused on which ones we're talking about, but we're gonna bring
Okay.
all 3 of those at that time.
Inventory. Just gotta see what exists.
Can we go back to page 2 of attachment A again? So, on the 16th, we sort of discussed this during our budget, but improvements to the plaza fountain. And if, I don't know if anyone's open to opening up public comment, but I believe we have someone in the audience that might want to speak to that.
Okay, so we can. Does
We'll just-
anybody have the bubonic plague pool? I'm sorry, I invite you to speak. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. I would just like to express appreciation for just the consideration of agendizing this potential project. It has been something that I've been thinking about for probably about 3 to 4 years and have taken quite a bit of time just trying to figure out how we might be able to move forward. I was reminded when I was driving over here this evening that the farmers market was breaking up, and again I realized how fortunate we are to have such a phenomenal city hall and plaza. And I am a student of history. I want to respect what is currently there, but I also believe that we have great opportunity to create something that will not only be complementary to City Hall, but will actually be well received by the public in a variety of venues and settings. And I have no specific design this evening. I am just simply wanting to, at the August meeting, to gain at least the conceptual support of the project, because it is going to require a tremendous amount of work. And I want to move forward at least with the confidence that there is interest on the part of the council. So that's about all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else like to have a comment?
If you want, we can give Tim's honor just one moment. He may have something, since it takes that delay. He hasn't.
You're right.
Okay.
Nope.
I think it's just discussion, right? There's no motion.
Yeah.
So this is, if you're good with this, generally, this is it'll be the planning for the third quarter with Garrett and yourselves.
I think it's a good start for now. It's already on the agenda for August 16th. I just think, obviously, when Garrett gets here, some sort of council sitting, goal session, visioning would be important. So maybe that'll all be wrapped in as well with this.
Speaking of meetings too, you will have to have a meeting on, you'll have to have a special meeting before July 11th to call the special election. And it can't happen until Councilmember Harrington's seat is vacant. You can't have it before she goes.
I have to write a note to
You do?
Rebecca. I'll
Yeah.
write one today.
Okay. Without any further comments, I think we're ready to move on. I think we have the input we need. One last item.
6.4, right?
That's right.
Can I back up? Did we decide when that special meeting is going to be based on when Councilmember Harrington is going to submit her resignation? Are you going to?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I don't, maybe I'll actually like write one, a formal one. I'll turn it in tomorrow.
But if it's done before July 1st, then we can have a meeting before July 1st.
Oh, okay.
Based on your effective date.
Oh, whatever, I don't put it, whatever I give it to you is the effective date.
Okay.
No, I'm asking you.
No, you can actually write it and say, I resign effective July 1st and submit it tomorrow. But if you want to submit it tomorrow to make it effective sooner, you obviously can do that.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that we finished up any last things that had to be done before the break. So I picked July 1st in case anything came up before the break. But if you prefer for me to do
Well,
it sooner, I suppose I can.
If you're open to that.
If you're open to quitting right now,
Well,
I'm
I'm just saying if you're open to like maybe June 28th, then we could try to get this done before our interim city manager.
Oh, I see.
Just wrap it all up
I
before
see.
July.
I was
if that-
promised July 1st.
Well, I mean,
That is something that Madeline asked me to stay till July 1st, so
Okay. Well,
I did agree with her to do that, but.
Well, then we have the 4th of July, and then obviously my birthday is on July 10th, and so.
Well, I would not want to interfere with your birthday.
I'm kidding. That was obviously a joke.
Okay, so I believe.
I will do my best to accommodate your comments. Thank you.
So.
No, I'm obviously doing it whenever you want. We will.
Do whatever you want as long as it's right.
You're right, there's one last item, and that was pulled from the consent calendar last night, and that's involving whether or not you wanted to introduce an ordinance amending the code to remove a residency requirement from the city manager. And I did share with you City Attorney Jeff Walters' thoughts that he is of the mindset that the residency requirement is not as there he is. He can chime in. I don't want to speak for
Hi,
you,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing? I was just, as you know, wrote a brief analysis of the constitutional provision that does indicate that public employees cannot be required to live within the cities for which they work. But in the same constitutional provision, there's a clause that indicates that it is constitutional to set distance requirements from the city in which the public employee works, as long as they're reasonable. And there are a couple of cases that I cited in which the courts found distance requirements to be reasonable. I'm not advocating that the council set distance requirements, but I think that the current requirement that the city manager live within the Sonoma Valley Unified School District boundaries is probably reasonable. But council can either eliminate that or set different distance requirements, such as within 5 miles of the city's boundaries or within 8 miles of City Hall. And I outlined in my memo some of the reasons why it might be desirable to have a city manager who lives closer to the city rather than further away.
Well, that's new information. I was under the impression our ordinance violated state law, but you're saying the Sonoma Valley Unified School District is a reasonable distance requirement in your view? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, in my view, I think we should keep it. I think it's important that our city manager is part of our community and live as close as possible.
I think we have to take public comment.
Oh.
Historically, the last 3 city managers, 2 of them did not live within the school district's boundaries. One lived in Santa Rosa, Linda Kelly, and Carol Giovanato lived in Cloverdale.
So how did
municipal code provided otherwise?
Practically, though, if our ordinance, if that was on the books, which it was during those 2 tenures, how did that happen? Just
it was the provision was ignored.
Okay.
What? Okay. Oh, let's keep with public comment. I'm going to stick my nose into things. If I do think you need to think about your conversations with Garrett, which is why I brought this before he arrives, as to what is appropriate with based on those conversations with Garrett. I do think it's reasonable to have the city manager live close. But I was talking with Jeff about a proximity kind of thing. You know, can I get to City Hall in 30 minutes or 25 minutes or something like that? But certainly, this is Sonoma's code. This is your code.
I do think, in response to David Kipp's comments with respect to your new city manager, if you didn't have a conversation with the city manager, the new candidate, about this requirement, and he has obviously relied on the comments and conversations you've had to his detriment to now resign from his current position and accept the one you've offered to him, I think it would be very problematic to enforce this clause against him.
You know what's really interesting? Thank you. What's interesting is that we've had city managers that live far. We had city managers that live right here. For me, it no longer makes a difference. That's just how I feel. So I'm not interested in being that draconian. I don't think it applies anymore.
I think it would be, I mean, obviously it's your decision because it's your city manager, but to ask someone to sell their house and then incur capital gains tax on that sale and then purchase a new home in the town of Sonoma where the values have gone up, I just looked, by 13% in 1 year is asking a lot of a person who's taken a hard job. And I agree that having somebody here is wonderful and great and good, but it's hard to imagine an adult who is settled in their home selling it and incurring the capital gains taxes to move here for a job. That's impossible for me to imagine. I would not do that. That would be a big deal.
And having served on the hospital board, I don't know if it's the policy right now, but if a doctor moves here and starts a practice, they loan them or give them $100,000 because of the expense of moving here, and to help them with their practice. I don't know if that's still the policy, but.
Well, that option could have been available to us, but during the process of recruitment, we were told that this ordinance violated state law, and now I found out that it does not. And so that's what's frustrating for me. I agree with what the city attorney just said. I think that would be very problematic to enforce this upon Mr. Toy. But I wish we had known that at the beginning of the process. That could have changed the conversation with him when it came to, it could have just changed the entire way it played out.
Well, we can't unring the bell.
I agree.
You know, we can't unring the bell.
And I don't want to unring the bell. I just,
Well, why don't you change it to say it's a provision that can be waived?
well, okay, that's not a bad idea. Or, because as we just learned, this has been ignored recently. Can it continue to be ignored? Or should we?
Or you could just say the city manager shall live a reasonable distance from the city of Sonoma, or whatever the applicable case law says is allowable, and said requirement may be waived by a majority vote of the city council.
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
What about that? Does that work, Jeff?
It does.
Yeah, so we'll just modify the ordinance. It can be waived. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think it's proper to ignore it. I think we should modify it.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
So that means, you heard that, Mr. Kiff? And does that mean that we do a roll call vote? I mean, a motion and a second?
That's right. Let me try and restate the motion. That would be to go ahead.
David, could I suggest something? We first obviously need to get public comment before the council takes action. I think that we should come back with language that reflects what the council has just indicated, or ultimately does indicate, rather than trying to, on the fly here, craft some verbiage that would become an ordinance. Ordinances are really important to craft carefully because they typically last a long time. So I recommend we bring this back with language that then the council can look at and read.
I was going to happily agree with you. Kind of a reintroduction of corrected language.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we're going to be returning to have it on a future soon as possible agenda?
Sure. And again, with public comment, you'll want to make sure
Right.
there's no one on Zoom. Okay. So the recommended action then would be to return for introduction of an ordinance amending the municipal code to adjust the residency requirement and allow for a waiver per the conversation of the council tonight.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a motion?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, keep the ordinance as it is, just add the ability to waive.
I didn't quite hear that. I heard Amy say something different.
Oh, well,
So-
I don't support that. I would want to
Listen
keep
to
the
what I
ordinance,
said.
okay.
Jeff said there's legal language that says you can live within a reasonable distance. You can require people to live within a reasonable distance from
Right, and
your
you said the
city.
school district is reasonable.
Well, Jeff needs to look at the language of the case that found that and find out what the test the court applied was, and then
Uh-huh.
use the specific language from those cases that will be laid out by the court. It'll have usually some kind of magic words about what that is. So I don't know
Okay.
if the words are reasonable distance or there are some term
Okay.
of art that defines what you're allowed to do. You need to have those words in your ordinance so that it's not illegal. So if what you have now is it has to be this, but the case says it has to be a reasonable distance, which is defined as blah, 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 you
Mhm.
want to have those words in your ordinance to maintain the legality of it. That's all I'm saying, is Jeff should write it in
Yeah, I
in
totally
conformity.
support that. I
Yeah.
totally support that.
So, is there, did you
So
suggest?
I move what the city manager suggested.
So are we supposed to still go out to the public?
Where do you-
No, all right, thank you. All right,
Is there a second?
second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barnett,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Felder,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Agrimonti.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, where are we now? We done?
I know we got.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't able to attend the library, Friends of the Library. I wasn't able to attend North Bay Watershed Association. I had a conflict in schedules. And the Zero Waste was canceled. So that's my report. Anyone else?
I just want to say, I don't have any reports on any of these committees. Obviously, I think this is going to be Councilwoman Harrington's last meeting, and I just wanted to recognize her. Yeah. Obviously, that came as a shock to me, and I think to all of us yesterday. And you know, as I said, when Logan left, I was really looking forward to working with all of you, and now you're all leaving me. You know, I've always admired you, and I think you've really put a lot of effort into this and a lot of work into this, and you always ask the best questions on the fly, and I've learned a lot from you. And you know, again, we are going to have big shoes to fill, but I know you're going to still be an active member of our community, and I just wanted to thank you just personally for your service and recognize you for that.
Thank you, Kelso.
Oh, I certainly, Amy and I have had, I think it's like a guide discussion when you and I get together, and we've had the best of times, and I don't think we've always agreed, but you know, we backed up and we said, okay, I think that's right. This is America. Nobody has to come to blows. And I really enjoyed working with you, and I'm so glad you're not going anywhere. You're going to still live here. And so I'm just so proud to be associated with you. And I think you were on the city council for all the right reasons. You brought a different perspective, especially with the minimum wage. I think that was really amazing because that was a hard fight. Those are things that people don't really have the guts for, and you had the guts to do some really important things here. And that's what I admire, because it's not easy to do the things we do. It is not easy. So people who are interested in running the council, you better understand it. If you don't have the city and its residents in the top rung, you're not going to be happy, because you're here for another reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. The first impression is you are very straightforward. And the first impression lasting forever. That is the true, very authentic, yeah. Sometimes straightforward, of course, will offend some people. But you come back, you're thinking that is right, you always tell something, meaningful, yeah, and educated. To be honest, I learn a lot from you, and I want to keep learn from you. Yeah. Thank you.
I think I can just sum it all up by saying we're really going to miss you.
Yes, and I would just add that I'm sure this council will recognize you formally at some point in August. We obviously, at the last minute here, didn't have a lot of time to prepare for that, but we look forward to welcoming you back into these chambers after July.
Right. Thank you so much, everybody. I would just say, gosh, I have learned so much. I mean, really the joy of my life is learning new things, and to be on a city council where you can learn all these things and make all these changes and meet all these people is tremendous. And I would just say, to anyone thinking about running, there is a real idea about who you have to be an elected office. That you have to be the kind of person who isn't direct, that you have to be the kind of person that beats around the bush. And that isn't true, because we need all kinds of voices, and we need people who love to learn, and sometimes people who don't like going to events, and all kinds of introverts and extroverts, and just a wide variety of people. And so I would just say there's a huge pressure to be the same person as everybody else, but you don't have to be. You can just be your own person and make your own way. And I think it just it's so nice to be somewhere where that's appreciated. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also want to obviously recognize our interim city manager. This will also be your last meeting, and I just wanted to thank you for stewarding the city as well as you have for the last 6 months. I don't know how many interim city managers have had to deal with 3 resignations in 6 months, but it's been a unique time. But the city business continued on, and it continued on well. And I know we're going to miss you, but I know you're going to a great place up at the county, and I hope that this council will continue to be able to work with you on the important issues, obviously facing the valley and homelessness, et cetera. So I really have enjoyed meeting you and working with you. And
I'm sorry, could
Thank
you
you.
remind me when your last day is?
We were just talking about that. I think I should probably stay through the 4th. I won't be working the 1st and 2nd. I'll be working somewhere else, though. But to give everybody enough vacation time and make sure something crazy doesn't happen on the 4th. And then Sue will be interim city manager from the 5th to the 20th.
Great.
Yeah.
And Garrett is reporting?
Garrett starts on the 20th.
Okay.
And also thank Sue and all of you. It's obviously been a long meeting, and I know the budget's a long process, so thank you for hanging in there. And I just want to appreciate.
But I think we really feel comfortable with what we did.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
know.
I just wanted.
And I just want to say to Dave, one thing that I really appreciate about you is how much pleasure and fun you obviously take in your work, and that's really inspiring. And you think, you know what, that's how you should feel about your job. And I think your emails that are funny and your texts and the time you put into things is it's really a pleasure to work with somebody who's enjoying what they do, and it really just creates a great culture. So thank you for that.
Yes.
If the owner city manager like you, we don't need to discuss today's the 6.4.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I would waive that in a second.
I'll say very briefly, I have so appreciated getting to know each one of you and getting to know Sonoma. I would not have had this opportunity. And, I just lived in Healdsburg, but I just met so many cool people, saw so many cool programs. I go away inspired.
And it's interesting you say that. I really appreciate it because my husband always says there's no such thing as a coincidence. You have come here for a purpose because you will bring us with you when you go to the county. because you will remember the things that we have whined about and been angry about and became stubborn about. You see it. You see it and you know. So you will bring that with you. And I think that's an important, valuable piece of who we are that you bring with you. So I appreciate that part.
And hopefully you'll come back in August as well. We can formally recognize you.
To the city party. Oh, you've
Oh,
never
yeah.
seen a city party.
Oh, well, you're
Just
invited.
heard, now that it's a $30,000.
You're invited.
I'm
Yeah.
going to be here.
Yeah.
And I've got the show all planned. It ain't, I thought Bruno's Mars, but no, we're doing somebody else, and the cheerleaders from the high school, they've got to do a dance program for us on the stage, and they need to be able to do that to open up this city again. Thank you, everybody.
Hammer there.
Yeah.
All right. Adjourn it.
Adjourned.
All right.